Yeah. Oh, I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, January the 11th, 2018. At this time, we're going to take care of some housekeeping items. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99, and will rebroadcast every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and Saturday at 12:30 p.m. and is available by video on demand at the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones and laptops, and I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. If you wish to speak, you need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. We allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case and 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of a case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share the 10-minute slot and so forth. Please address the board when you come up and not the audience. Those applicants presenting their case are counted as those speaking in favor of the case and share the 10-minute slot. At this time, we'll have the invocation and pledge by Pete Peterson.
Again, welcome and thanks for coming tonight. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we're thankful for this day and this brand new year that you've brought. Tonight, we ask that you would give each board member the knowledge and the wisdom to make informed, correct decisions for the citizens of Henry County. Lord, we pray that you would continue to bless this great nation, our leaders, the state of Georgia, and our citizens. It's in Jesus' name we pray, and we thank God. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Okay, at this time, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Fretwell. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, and this would be the November 9th meeting. Okay, so I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Peterson. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, are there any staff comments tonight?
Madam Chair, there are no staff comments tonight.
Okie dokie. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the agenda items. If we can go ahead and get the first case.
Case number CU-17-08, ESS Storage LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 1955 Panola Road in land lot 197 of the 12th District. The property consists of 6.547 plus or minus acres, and the request is for self-storage expansion and to be allowed to operate vehicle truck rental business. A vehicle and truck rental business. This property is located in Commission District 5 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Roodsill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. The request before you tonight is located on Panola Road, here in the green hatched area that is illustrated. And just to give you your bearings, the McDonald's would be located here. This is Fairview Road and Panola. If you're familiar with this area, this is the site of an existing self-storage facility. And so what the applicant intends to do is to expand the self-storage facility onto the same lot, which is a lot of record. And the applicant wouldn't need a conditional use except that it's not an expansion or an addition of an existing building. He'll be building standalone buildings, and so he is required to have a conditional use. In addition to the expansion of the self-storage facility, the applicant is requesting to operate a truck rental company, which is very typical for self-storage. It's not an accessory use per se. It does require a conditional use, so we're putting these together for your consideration. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We've noted that the property is Zone C3, which is a prerequisite. Future land use map calls for commercial, so it's within the county's policy guide, and we do recommend approval.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions for staff at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question. Stacy, now, does he plan to go outside of the limits of where the property is now?
No, sir. The property now, if I can draw your attention to the site plan that's exhibited, this is Panola Road, and this is his existing facility. This area here is what he's proposing to develop. And so more than half the site is undeveloped right now. So the property is located within the Fairview Road Overlay District, so whatever he builds will have to conform to these higher standards, and so we were confident recommending approval.
Okay, any other board members have any questions for staff? Okay, if not, we're going to call the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, board members. My name is Dennis Ng, and I'm the owner of ESS Self Storage. The only thing I could add,
Address, please?
I'm sorry?
Could I have your
Oh, sorry.
address, please?
902 Oakdale Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30307.
All right. Can you continue?
There's 2 points I could add to Stacy's presentation. Currently on Panola Road, it's more of a cut-through road as opposed to the main road through Ellenwood, and there is a decel lane. So as far as expansion or the truck rental affecting any traffic patterns, I don't foresee that much more traffic on the road. There is an empty lot as far as affecting the surrounding area. There's an empty lot here. There's a cemetery to the south, and there is a residential unit there, but right now there's a tree buffer between what we plan to build and my neighbor.
All right, do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do. One question is, what size trucks do you plan to rent there?
They range from what they call a 10-foot, which is a 10-foot box truck, up to a 24-foot box truck, which is typical of the rental fleet for budget truck rental.
Okay, I don't have anything else at this time.
Just for staff, would that be a condition that we could put on would you want to limit the truck size on that? I didn't know if that was what you were alluding to. I mean, is that something that we should take into consideration as far as because I know sometimes the bigger trucks have a load on the highways, and it creates the ruts and stuff like that. So this would be a question for you, Stacy.
So it's my understanding that to be considered a commercial vehicle, it would need to be at least 26,000 pounds. And I'm not aware that the 24-footers are 26,000 pounds.
No, they're not.
And so, I mean, a condition is meant to mitigate negative externalities, but I don't think that these 24-footers would cause the damage that you may be anticipating.
Okay. All right, anyone else have any questions for the applicant? All right, if not, you may be seated. This time, we're going to see if anybody else wants to speak in favor of this case. For the remaining, I guess we'll have 10 minutes? Yes. Yeah. To speak in favor of the case? Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. Anybody want to speak in opposition of this case? Okay. I don't see anyone coming up. So did any board members have any additional questions for staff or the applicant before we call the case?
Yes, I'd like to
Mr. Nelson.
talk to the applicant again.
The applicant, please come forward.
Yes, sir. How many total trucks do you plan to, or you anticipate having on that property at any given time?
Tow trucks?
The total number of trucks.
We don't own the fleet. That's actually owned by Budget Truck Rental, and they only have 3 types of vehicles in their fleet. So it's not a permanent the number of trucks we have there. So it would range from 3 to 5 to 6 at any given time.
Okay. Now, what do you plan to do in terms of the site of the area itself? What do we plan to do? As of right now, that area it kind of presents an eyesore. It's not a good looking site to see the trucks that's parked there today. So what's the plan for that?
Of where we actually put the trucks?
Yes.
We have space towards, right now, we're parking the trucks along this road, right, the drive coming in, and we also have some parking in the back.
Okay, on that map, will you point to the Panola Road area?
Yes, sir, this is the Panola Road right here. This is the front of the property right here.
Okay,
And I actually have a visual, if you'd like to see, from the street looking back onto the site.
okay, let's go back to the Panola Road area
Yes,
right
sir.
there. And you're saying you have trucks parked where?
This is the main entrance coming in right here.
Right,
And so this is a driveway, and there's a curb, so we're parking the trucks right there.
okay, but on the Panola Road side now, you're currently parking trucks there.
On the grass, yes, we are, but that's where the buildings are gonna go, so the trucks won't be parked there anymore.
Okay,
This is where there's a fence there, and we have space there for the trucks, but that's where the future expansion is gonna go.
and will the trucks be stored within the building?
No, sir.
Okay, will the trucks be stored behind the building?
In this area here?
Yes,
No, sir. There's no way, because my customers wouldn't be able to access the units anywhere using those driveways.
one of the concerns I have is the way the place look now, today.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost an eyesore, the way the trucks are parked there now and the way it looks. So what do you plan to do to combat that?
Well, actually, if you look at the placement of this building here,
Mhm.
and it actually takes up a lot of the view away from looking out down at the site. We were looking at different ways of vision right there, so instead of aligning the buildings this way, we run it across like that. And because of the overlay district design rules, we foresee a brick building there with typical of the architecture for the area.
And you are aware of all the overlay rules and you're prepared to meet the requirements of overlay?
Yes, Stacy and I had a 4-hour meeting, and we understand, I want it to look better. I'm on the same page. That is my intention, so that's why we're gonna be building this building, because my main office will be up there, and that represents my business. So of course, it's in my interest to make sure that to me, it's more visually pleasing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy, I have a question. On the, sir, stay back, I'm sorry, in case I have a question. Stacy, on that overlay district, is there a requirement for a privacy fence to hide some of the,
Well,
the trucks? Because I
actually-
know there was another property that we said, they had to have a privacy fence, and I'm just wondering if that's already in the overlay district
Yes,
requirement.
there's the overlay district standards that the applicant will be required to comply with. There are also supplemental standards for self-storage units countywide, which the applicant will be required to comply with, and there are 4 pages out of our ordinance. So yes, to answer your question, there is a requirement for a privacy fence.
Okay, so, and that privacy fence, with he having that building, can you just outline where that privacy fence would have to be, Stacy, around that?
This first building, if I understand correctly, is meant to be offices, but for the self-storage unit behind it, the privacy fence would be behind and through the gate. So,
So it wouldn't be down the sides and on the other sides where people could see it? I guess, what's touching on the other sides, is that just, is that residential?
what's touching on this side is residential, and it's very well wooded along this property line.
Okay,
And then to this side, it's zone C3, which, I don't want to say it's undeveloped, but it's been used in the past for outside storage, but it's not being used for, I don't think, anything at this time. And then behind the subject property is the cemetery, which is zone commercial. So, but the fence would be required for the self-storage units.
okay, so I don't know that I heard you, what I heard you say was it was just gonna be on the front, so you're saying it doesn't surround the property?
It's my understanding that the fence definitely does surround the property.
Oh, so it does, okay, well, I didn't hear you say that, and I apologize.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just thought it was gonna be up front. So as long as we have that privacy fence, and there's standards for that privacy fence, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay,
correct.
and so then the trucks wouldn't be able to be seen then from the residential side or the cemetery or that other undeveloped piece of
The
property?
only way for the trucks to be seen is if they were parked in front of the offices.
Okay, all right, okay. And do you plan to park the trucks in front of the offices, sir?
No.
Okay. All
I
right,
have a
that's-
sign there, and with the constraints, we wouldn't be able to park them there anyway, but it's never my intention to keep them out front like that.
Right, okay. All right, that's all I have. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Risher, I'm sorry, Mr. Risher, he does.
Are the trucks going to be on a paved parking surface?
Yes, sir. Right now, This is all paved. This is paved, all this area is paved, and the driveway is paved.
And so you'll have to account somehow for the additional stormwater runoff
As for the storage buildings?
on that.
I'm sorry, for the.
I said, I suppose that you've been briefed on the county's stormwater detention codes.
For, when we build here with the storage, we've left this area here for retention ponds.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson?
Stacy, I just want to go back to one thing. You indicated earlier that he's required to do a conditional use based on the fact that he's building a new building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for example, this is a single parcel, and it's a lot of record. So according to the Fairview Road Overlay District, the grandfather status says if he's making an addition to an existing building, he wouldn't need to come back before the county at all. But because these are standalone buildings, he's coming back in for a conditional use.
And one thing the applicant, to the applicant, one thing you understand that once you tamper with this, it falls under the guidelines of the overlay and not any grandfathering at all.
Well, right now, all we're really doing is affecting this side. We're actually not addressing the old part of the storage at all. So, yes, I understand. Then everything new that I'm building will fall under the overlay.
But I'm thinking because you are, because it's a one piece of property, so that's why I asked him where the fence would go. Is there a privacy fence up there now?
Currently, this is the property line, and these are actually storage buildings that act as a visual buffer on that side. And there is a fence that goes all the way around the property right now.
But is it a privacy fence?
What would be the
I don't
definition?
know. Stacy, you would have to, he said there's guidelines for privacy fence, so that's why I asked that specific question.
Yes,
You know.
the rule is that you would not be able to see from the public right-of-way. So it's my understanding that the fence that's along the property line that goes through the woods is not a privacy fence that we would consider to be a privacy fence, but the part that's along the front, it will be required to block the view from the public right-of-way into the self-storage facility, and that will simply be required.
Okay, so I guess what I was thinking then, that there would be a privacy fence all the way around the property. And so I just heard you say no, that's not a requirement.
Correct. On the side with the residence, it's very well wooded, and so it forms a buffer. And so it meets the requirements for buffering between residence and commercial. But the privacy fence itself is not required except from where you can see from the public right-of-way, but there is a requirement for a fence to be around the property. And there is a fence around the property currently.
Okay. So if something happened to that buffer, would there have to be a privacy fence put up, or it's just, that would be grandfathered?
Administratively, we could consider and approve a reduction in that wooded buffer from 40 feet to 20 feet with a decorative fence. So yes, we could approve that if something were to happen to the wooded buffer.
That was just, because in the future, we don't know what it's
Right.
gonna be, and then if something were to tear down, then all of a sudden you're looking at trucks behind, and you're looking at retention ponds and things like that, and I'm just thinking of the future,
Absolutely, yes.
what could happen, and just trying to protect the future of the county. And I understand what you're doing, sir, and it's not, but we're just trying to look ahead to see how we can make sure that all the property owners around that are not affected in a negative way if something were to happen to those buffers, or maybe if those buildings got torn down. So that's why I asked if a privacy fence would go all the way around just for the other property owners. And even you said there's a graveyard behind it. What's blocking that? Because that's public access, is it not? That somebody would visit the graveyard and they could look, if that's not a privacy fence on the end.
The graveyard itself is Zone C3 as well as the
Okay.
subject property, and so there's no buffer that's required
Okay.
between C3 and C3.
Okay.
It's my understanding that that area of the public cemetery is for maintenance, and so there are no grave sites there that I'm aware of, and so the public really shouldn't be in that area.
Okay. I'll just defer that to you.
I don't see a potential problem with that side of it. The biggest concern is the front area off Panola Road
Yes, sir.
and creating and falling within the overlay requirements. Okay, and you are aware of those, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, no further questions. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Okay, if we can go ahead and call the case.
Case number CU-17-08, ESS Storage LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, request of conditional use for a property located at 1955 Panola Road in land lot 197 of the 12th District. The property consists of 6.547 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a self-storage expansion and to be allowed to operate a vehicle truck rental business. This property is located in Commission District 5 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Roots Hill, Chief Planner.
Do you have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the conditional use based on staff recommendation.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Nelson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, we can call the next place. Thank you.
Case number RZ-17-27, Express Plumbing and Septic of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 2172 Highway 155 North in Land Lot 6 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.328 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a plumbing service. This property is located in Commission District 4 and will be presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board.
Good evening.
The rezoning case before you this evening is for the property located at 2172 Highway 155 North, which is hatched in green on the overhead. It's a little hard to see, but it's right here. And the request is to rezone the property from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial for the purpose of a plumbing service. Plumbing is considered a heavy consumer good and service which requires the C3 zoning district. The future land use designation for the subject property is commercial, and the property is developed already with a commercial structure with which the applicant intends to use per their letter of intent. With that said, planning staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with the condition that I'll place on the overhead, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
I do. So C3 opens it up to a lot of other businesses. And so on this, if I were to say to C3, but to restrict it to just this type business, which would be plumbing, so what would happen is if someone else wanted to do something else within a C3, would they have to come back for that? Is that would be a condition?
They would have to modify the condition.
Correct, Madam Chair. If you all were to recommend a limitation in the use with the zoning district, once it gets to the Board of Commissioners, and if they approve that, then in the future, what will need to happen is a modification to that condition going back to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. It'd just be the Board of Commissioners, not this
Yes.
body. Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? At this time, would like the applicant to come forward? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Urban. My address is 40 Linwood Drive, Ellenwood, Georgia, Henry County.
Do you have anything to add to staff recommendation?
She pretty much covered it. Just we're trying to operate a plumbing service company out of this property. We'd like to get it rezoned for that purpose.
Okay, all right. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
What type of services, it says
It's-
plumbing and septic services?
It is a septic company also. It's a plumbing service. We do repair work. We go to the customer, residential and commercial, and we do pump septic tanks also.
Are you gonna have excavation equipment and stuff
We-
like
we-
that there?
We will. This property consists of a garage in the back, and all our equipment is stored inside that garage, which is existing.
Okay, my line of questioning is going to, you're doing service on septic tanks, and this property is located in close proximity to several restaurants around there. It just struck me as kind of odd when I was reading this that we would consider putting a septic service company that could have,
We do have one pump truck, and we do park it there toward the back. It's not really visible from the road.
I was more thinking about the materials coming in and out of there in proximity to the restaurants and the high school and things like that.
The materials that we use are bought and installed at the time of that job. We don't store any material there at all, and we don't sell to the public. We're just a strictly service repair company.
Right. Do you pump out septic tanks?
We do.
With your pumper truck?
We have a pump truck, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you pump out and flush that truck before bringing it back?
We take it to a landfill and dump it at a landfill, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff. Is this in the overlay district where they would have to have a privacy fence?
Yes, ma'am.
for-
It is in the highway corridor overlay.
Okay, and, so is there a privacy fence there now, do we know?
I don't believe there is.
What was the question?
Is there a privacy fence on the front
No,
of the
ma'am.
property?
There's
So
not
you
a
know
privacy
that-
fence. There's an old fence, if you're facing the building, there's an old, barbed wire fence it's ancient. It's been there for a long time. It's on the left side of the property.
So because you're in this overlay district and you're asking for this rezoning, there would be a requirement to install a privacy
And
fence?
outside storage, as Stacy said in the previous case, would require that anyway.
Right, okay. So I just want to make sure he understands, and that would,
Yes, ma'am.
that's just to store the equipment that's in the back so that it's not visible to the public from that east, that's 155.
Right.
Right, okay.
That's what we have planned anyway. The entrance that takes you to the back of the property, we're gonna put a privacy fence there to block the view from the trucks from Highway 155.
So let's look at the map there where this is located, and I just want to see what, so they're off of, that's behind the property, is that a residential?
It is RA. I'm not sure if it's a residence.
Okay.
I don't know.
Are you, I'm sorry, you have somebody else coming up.
Yes, sir.
Property behind that property has been a residence. The man, Mr. Steele, passed away several years ago. His wife has passed away in a nursing home in Stockbridge in the last 4 weeks. So at this point, their daughter has got to decide and look at the legal situation on what the mother and daddy wanted to have done with it. Now, behind the property is also a required line of cypress, and those cypress actually meet each other. So you can't see the residents, and the residents can't see us. We also have a fence on 1 foot of their property so that the property line goes between the line of cypress and their fence. Their fence has barbed wire on the top. At the time we bought the property from them, they had cows, and they requested that we put barbed wire on the top of a regular fence, which we've done. Now, the other area of the property is really old pecan trees, oak trees, that kind of thing. The property, and I'm talking about the property toward Eagles Landing Medical
We
Group.
have a map there, can you point to what you're talking about on that map right there, that's already up there, sir? Sir, the map that's already
It's
there.
up on the board. You see it up there,
Okay.
and that's the map there.
This was,
Sir, the map that's already up there, can you point to what you're talking about?
that property down that far behind is not on that plat, it's on this aerial photograph.
Sir, the one, I forget your name, Wayne.
Can I-
Mr. Irvin,
can I point it out?
Can you point to where he's talking about on that map that's already up on the, so show me what you're talking about. So the lady that owns the big parcel that's right behind it, you're saying they're not sure what they're gonna do with that parcel, that's right behind it, that parcel there,
There's a lake back there, isn't there?
There was a pond in the property for the cows to get water.
Okay, what's the little, right there by the end of the L looks like behind, it almost looks like it's behind the barbecue place, and then there's I guess that's, the heating and air place that's right beside it?
Logan Heating Air.
Logan's Heating Air, okay. So, staff, is that a C3 also, Logan's Heating and Air?
Yes.
It's not zone C3 on the map, it's C2.
It's a C2, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking for the little, I guess the little strip there that's behind Logan's and behind, looks like the barbecue place.
You're talking about this?
Yeah, and so is there a privacy fence that, like, along that way there, or would there have to be one?
There is a privacy fence between our address and Logan Heating Air. There is a
Okay.
privacy fence.
The only thing I'm thinking, that's a big piece of property that's right behind you, that big area. So if maybe a developer came in, if they sold that to a developer and it were to be developed, I guess my question to staff would be, at that time, would they have to put in a privacy fence, or would that be up to the developer? I'm just trying to look at the property that's around
I think
it.
the purpose of the privacy fence is to keep people from the right-of-way being able to see.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right then. Okay,
The property right behind the unit or the parcels you've just been talking about is also owned by me and my wife. She broke her leg and couldn't be here tonight. We own the W.M. White LLC Trust. So we have behind his location, we own behind Logan's location, and we own behind Shane's catering service. Shane has the corner where he's had the rib shack for a number of years. Now, standing at what you're talking about, straight across the road is the new mall.
well, I know that, sir. I was just concerned about the property that's behind, that's touching that property, and I'm assuming that you have a relationship with the septic company, because you didn't state your name and address for the record. You
And I
did?
need to get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
So I don't know who you are. I'm sitting here talking to someone I don't even know
This is
who
the
I'm
man that
talking
owns the
to.
property.
Is he your, I mean, what's the relationship here? I'm just,
I leased the property from him. He owns it.
okay, I'm just trying to,
I'm the business owner.
I'm trying to be an educated citizen up here, trying to figure out what's going on with this property. so
I
can
apologize,
protect the
this is my
citizens.
first time doing anything like
Yeah,
this. so
hey, listen.
I'm new at it.
We're all in here, we're all in this together, okay?
Thank you.
So we're just trying to help each other out here. So
Right.
here we go. Mr. Chair.
Yes. On the back of that property, he was talking about the cypress trees. That is like a privacy fence, because he's got a line of cypress trees that blocks the view. From my view, to looking back, and anybody that would develop in that area looking to my building. And then on the left side, that's where the pecan trees are, and that old barbed wire fence I talked about earlier.
Well, let me ask you, this goes back to one of the questions that was asked earlier about the trucks and that sort of thing. How many of those pump trucks do you have?
One.
You just have one? Will
Yes,
you-
ma'am.
Will you think about getting any other besides the one?
I don't want to. I don't want to
I was
get
gonna
that
say,
big.
is there an odor? I mean, we're talking about septic here. Is
We
there an
keep the
odor that
truck
goes
really
with that?
clean. We wash that truck every time we use it, just to keep it looking good, because it's a nice looking truck.
Right.
And we wash it every time we use it. And then when we dump, we flush it out at that time too. So it stays pretty clean, and it doesn't emit any odors whatsoever.
I just wouldn't want to go to Shane's and eat barbecue. And
Right,
smell
I
like that, you know
understand.
what I'm saying?
Totally.
You would not be able to see or smell from the rib shack anything obnoxious or offensive. Now, you mentioned future development. The key to all this is going to be when the county gets around to running the sewer line. We currently have a sewer line, and when I bought the property, I was told not to worry about it. Sewer line's right there. That sewer line is 7 feet under the dirt, and it's a high-pressure sewage line that the county put in for their own use. I can't tap into it. The shopping center, that's the new Kroger and all that, is across the road from us. The sewer line went down through that property because the county needed a sewer system for the 3 schools that are on East Lake Road. This property is on 155. Directly across from it is a tract that's been in a family for many years, a vacant house, and it's been for sale and then not for sale back and forth. But that's a big tract. And then 37 acres on Crumley Road just has been put under contract about 2 weeks ago, and so they've taken their sign down. So in each direction of all this is already commercial properties. So we're not changing the atmosphere whatsoever. And we have a good relationship with all the inspectors or all the people we've dealt with, and we have no problem with his vehicle and where he parks it. It's already being parked there. So my wife and I have met his entire family. It's an entirely family run and operated. So I don't have an 800 number to call Chicago or somewhere. We live just about 15 minutes from this property. So there's no surprises in all of this that I know of.
Sir, we do need you to state your name and address for the record.
My name?
Yes.
My full name is James Robert Morrison, Morrison, and we live at 4500 Oglesby Bridge Road, and that is McDonough mailing address 30252.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant?
I just have one more. Back to the septic issue. Just want to make sure we've covered all the base on that. How often do you have to empty that septic truck?
We can pump 3 tanks. We can do 3 jobs. We can pump 1,000 gallon tank, and then it fills my truck up because it's a 3,000 gallon tank. So every 3 addresses we pump, we go to the landfill.
And about how often are you doing that?
Right now, we're not heavily advertised in the septic part of it, so we're probably pumping right now 5 tanks a month.
Okay. And then when you wash the truck, are you using any type of disinfectant, or you just use soap and water?
We do use soap and water, no disinfectant.
Okay.
Just soap and water. If I see a need to use a disinfectant, if I get a buildup or something, of course I'll do that at that time. But we keep it so clean that never has presented itself.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
I do have a question for staff, just
Okay.
for that one. Is there any county ordinance about storing those trucks that, so, and I guess I need to ask one question and then ask the county. So let's just say that you had just the one job and you didn't have 3 jobs in a row and you just have the one and you didn't have anything else on the books. You would still go and dump that. You would never bring it back, even if it's half full, or is there times when you do bring it back and it's got septic in it?
That's a very good question. What I try to do is I try to line up 3 jobs for that particular day.
Okay.
So, because it costs me
that's
money
what
every time I go dump, so I try to get it full and then take it to the
Okay,
dump.
I think that's what she was alluding to, yeah, and that kind of helped me understand. So, but back to staff, and I don't know if the staff would know this or not, is there a regulation to store trucks that would have septic in it? Would there be any restrictions of putting that on the property? Or is that something that I should put a condition on?
That would be regulated by the environmental health. Environmental health.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. But I don't know what those regulations are, so, okay.
That I had to have environmental health. Brian Carson is the chief inspector. He had to come and test my truck. I actually had to pump out a tank, and fortunately we had the tank on site, so we pumped that tank to get all the certifications that I need to be able to operate that kind of business in Henry County.
Well, I'm gonna ask you, and then I'm sure you're gonna be honest with me, is there a regulation that prevents you from bringing that truck on site with septic in it, or is there a regulation that you have to dump it before you bring it on site?
There's not a regulation.
Okay, that do that.
Because they know that you're gonna have septic on the truck at any given time.
Right.
But like I say, we try to schedule it 3 pumps in one day so we can cost effectively get rid of it and have it empty for the next 3
Right,
jobs.
right. Okay, I don't have anything.
Any additional questions? No. Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot the remaining minute and 37 seconds to anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the case. Okay, if no one's coming forward, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
We'd like to
your time.
allot 10 minutes for those speaking in opposition of the case. Anyone like to speak in opposition of this case? Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, if not, we'd like to call the case.
Case number RZ-17-27, Express Plumbing and Septic of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 2172 Highway 155 North in Land Lot 6 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.328 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a plumbing service. This property is located in Commission District 4 and was presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, Planner 1.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion for approval of RZ 1727 with the following conditions as outlined by staff, and then I have 2 other conditions. I'd like to limit this use to the plumbing and septic that is noted on this rezoning. And then the 3rd condition would be no truck would be allowed on site that had not been previously dumped. So in other words, no trucks would be allowed that would have sewage on site.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question, if we make that condition, who's responsible for making sure that doesn't happen?
Well, who's responsible for any condition? It would be the county.
That's my point. If we don't have an entity that's responsible for checking that.
Okay.
With respect to the septic, it is regulated by the state. And so if we place a condition on it from our end, it will be very difficult for the county to regulate something that's not within our authority to regulate.
I can amend my motion, but you would have to get, the seconder would have to.
Will you accept amendment to that motion?
Okay, I'm gonna
Okay,
take
let's
away,
hear it.
I would take away the 3rd condition.
Okay. Okay.
We'll trust him.
And you're removing your 3rd condition
The 3rd
from?
condition.
Okay. We have a motion, we have an amended motion and a second. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
So the amended motion is referring to the empty septic tank.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-17-29, Mohammed W. Fazamed of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located in the northwest quadrant of East Atlanta Road and Rex Road in Land Lot 188 of the 12th District. The property consists of 5.39 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a convenience store and retail space. This property is located in Commission District 5 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rutsil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening, Stacy.
board members. The request before you tonight is at the corner of East Atlanta Road and Rex Road, and it's illustrated on the overhead and in your exhibit books in this green hatched area. This white shade indicates a residential agricultural zoning district. The red indicates various shades of commercial. For example, this bright red in the corner is C1. The other, for example, immediately to the north of the subject property is C2. The applicant's request is a rezoning from RA to C2. The future land use map for this area, and again, this is East Atlanta Road, this is Rex Road. The red indicates a future land use map designation for commercial, some form of commercial. What's not indicated on this future land use map is our functional road classification. But as indicated on the first page of your staff report, both East Atlanta Road and Rex Road are considered major arterials in Henry County. So this location is, it's indicated for commercial on our future land use map, which is our policy guide, and it's at the corner of two major arterials. So staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and we do recommend approval with two conditions that were recommended by our county DOT, and these conditions anticipate the widening of East Atlanta Road and so forth. So we do recommend approval of the applicant's request.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question for
Mr.
staff.
Nelson.
Stacy, you indicate that it's recommended widening of that area. At what point? Do you have any idea?
I can tell you that the widening of East Atlanta was included in our comprehensive transportation plan from 2007. And we have billions of dollars worth of needed improvements countywide. So this is not something that is on our radar for the next few years. This will be a long time out. But because we can get a handle on this property at this time, we want to go ahead and put the condition on there for when this road is widened at whatever time in the future, and at this time we do not have an anticipated year.
Okay. In that future land development, Stacy, at what point was that converted to the future land development deemed as commercial property?
I can tell you that the future land use map was adopted as part of our comprehensive plan in 2009, and the previous future land use map is on the wall of my office, and I do not recall if this subject property was indicated for commercial uses before 2009, but it has been showing for commercial uses since 2009.
Okay, and this also falls within the overlay district?
No, well, it does fall within the highway corridor overlay district. It's close to Fairview, but it's not in the Fairview Road overlay district. It's in the highway corridor overlay district.
Okay, that's all I have.
I have a question. But we got rid of all the activity centers?
Yes, ma'am.
So this, so I wouldn't have to, because I was just wondering, because this is a corridor, is that why you think that it's, all those four corners are commercial now? I mean, well, for the future land use map? I mean, I guess you wouldn't.
Part of what the policy has been is to encourage commercial to be brought together as a node. Typically nodes at major intersections, and in an attempt to discourage strip commercial, just along a roadway, we would prefer, and our policy is for nodal commercial. And because this is an intersection of two major arterials, it seems consistent that our future land use map would illustrate this as a commercial node, an emerging commercial node. And there's precedence for C2 in this area because the property immediately to the north of the subject property is already zone C2, even though it's not yet developed.
Okay, and so it could go up to a C3 even, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This policy guide doesn't limit the board on C1, C2, or C3. The applicant has requested C2 for the purpose of a convenience store and associated retail, and they've requested C2. There's a precedence for C2 in the area. We looked very closely at recommending C1, but because there's already C2, we did recommend approval, and we did consider that this is in the highway corridor overlay district, which will take care of the fact that this development will be upgraded. This development will be an asset aesthetically. It will be aesthetically pleasing, whatever it ends up being.
Okay, so I guess I get conflicted with corners highway corridors and what the definition of that is, because we've had other cases before us where not necessarily that the future land use map had it as commercial, but wanting it to be commercial, and it was like a major highway, and then it was on, it was on a corner. And so what constitutes a highway corridor where, it would, all four corners would be commercial?
The highway corridor overlay district would apply no matter what the zoning is. So if a developer or an owner wishes to develop and it's for commercial, there's a set of standards for that. If they wish to develop for residential, there's a set of standards for that. So the highway corridor overlay district does not mandate the types of use, only what the property will look like.
So that helped me.
Okay, I have one question, Stacy. You indicated a C1. Does a C1 allow the condition of a convenience store?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, any other questions from the board to staff? Mr. Risher, you look like you had a question.
Yes, since this is in the highway corridor overlay district, and according to material, from the Planning and Zoning Office, it says that requires increased landscaping and architectural controls. What type of enhanced construction or development is the applicant proposing?
The applicant is proposing and this is preliminary and conceptual, but the applicant is proposing two buildings. The first is a convenience store. The second is a retail building. And the applicant is showing typical parking areas and so forth. But the overlay district is required. They will have to comply with the requirements of the overlay district, which include 10-foot multi-use paths. It includes a 10-foot landscape section along the multi-use path. This is enhanced landscaping. It includes street trees. It includes pedestrian lighting. It also includes street lighting beyond the pedestrian lighting. It requires a connection for pedestrians from the sidewalk to the entrance of the building. The building will have to be masonry, brick or stone. It does not allow concrete block, for example. It requires a base. It requires a cornice. So these features are built in to the highway corridor overlay district because we know that these areas along each state route and along each major arterial in Henry, not each major arterial, certain ones, and Eastlake is one of them because we wanted to be sure to include it. So these sorts of aesthetic requirements are built into our ordinance and are simply required.
Okay, any other questions for staff before we call the applicant? Okay. All right, if we could call the applicant up to the podium, and please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Happy New Year. Michael Hayes Elliott, Jr., President and owner of Metro Engineering and Surveying, 1469 Highway 20 West, McDonough, 30253. I'll be brief. I represent the Estes family who's owned this property for generations, at least 100 years or more, and Mr. Fazamed, who is intending to develop the property. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of things that Stacy said or some of the things that some of the staff members said. 20 years ago, if I was up here, there would have been about 15 conditions on this piece of property. Mr. Risher, you'd have been sitting over there reading them off. It had taken Dante about 30 minutes to read the case. Y'all have adopted 6 months ago, you as a body and the Board of Commissioners, a highway overlay district. East Atlanta is earmarked just like Eastlake Road, all the major arterials, Rex Road. We have lighting standards. We have recessed lightings on canopies. We have enhanced and increased landscape buffers, enhanced and increased multi-path uses. I know it because I'm getting one reviewed downstairs right now at the corner of Hemp Hill and 138 for the same kind of use on a C2 parcel. Yes, since 2009, April of 2009, this corner, which we are intending to develop along with the other 4 quadrants of Rex Road, have existed as a future land use map as commercial. As Mr. Jordan said, the property to the north is C2. You may hear words like spot zoning. That's not happening tonight. That has existed in this part of this county for 9 years. I can't tell you how many man hours, thousands of dollars, man hours to consultants went into putting this map together for 330 square miles. And this is there. This is not something that just happened overnight. However, if we developed this a year ago, we wouldn't have the highway overlay district. You don't have metal facades. You can't have metal facades. You can't have masonry block siding. You can't have, they get to the detail of what kind of lighting fixtures we can put in. So if there, questions, and I appreciate you calling me back today, Mr. Nelson, are we going to comply? We don't have a choice. We have to. If we intend to develop this piece of property as this conceptual plan lays, I can't get a permit to move the first teaspoon of dirt unless I comply with the highway overlay district that was adopted 6 months ago. There was some talk in our discussion about prohibitive uses. That ordinance also prohibits uses. Pawn shops, they are not allowed in the highway overlay district. That's fine. You can make it a condition, but it would just be redundant in that it's already intrinsic into the code of Henry County. I understand that flyers are going in mailboxes and people don't want convenience stores, or they don't think it's there. At the same time, and I get that. I totally get that. But we have a property owner who's had a piece of property zoned commercial, adjacent to commercial, and mapped as future commercial for 9 years. They have a right for the highest and best use of their property, just like every property owner in Henry County. We have a future land use map that mandates that. We have a staff report that recommends approval with 2 conditions. We have a highway overlay district that we intend to adhere to. Well, not intend to, we have to. When we start taking away and prohibiting uses, we start chipping away at people's constitutional rights that are in the 5th and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. I just want to make that point clear. So, we have a condition to donate 20 feet of right-of-way. That's a 1/4 of an acre commercial property that we're willing, I said the D word. Some of my clients in the past would slap me for giving away property. Yes, we know East Atlanta. Both major arterials are crossing each other. Nobody's going to build a house there. Nobody's going to go down to George Patterson's office and apply for a residential building permit at that corner. It's the intersection of 2 major arterials. We're not down on Moccasin Gap Road somewhere. We're in a very high area of traffic. That's why it's marked commercial. That's why it was marked commercial 9 years ago. We're going to donate the right-of-way. We have a 40-foot buffer that we have to have. There's screening requirements that we have to have. That buffer takes up over 10% of the land mass that won't even be disturbed. So to say we're going above and beyond, I don't want a sticker for that, but we are doing exactly to the letter and beyond what the county requires us, and it's reflected in their approved report. So with that, I've got 5 minutes left. I don't believe anybody's going to speak in favor of this besides me, so I'll save any time I have for opposition and rebuttal to the opposition and entertain any questions from the commission.
Do the board have any questions for the applicant?
Yes. I have
Mr. Nelson?
I have one question now. Have the owners considered any other conditions other than convenience stores, or what do you actually plan to build other than or along with the convenience store?
Right now, Mr. Nelson, my client, Mr. Fazamed, intends to develop a convenience store. He already owns convenience stores here in Henry County. And we will, our conceptual plan is to have additional retail space on the property. We have almost 5.5 acres of property.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
Okay, any other board members have any questions for the applicant?
Is he gonna sell alcohol?
I'm not sure. He'll have to, if he does and choose, he'll have to get a beer and wine license in accordance with the county ordinance. So I hadn't even had that conversation. We're focusing on zoning right now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question for staff right quick. So, my map's upside down, so I guess that in comparison to that map. So on that map there, point to where this property is, because I'm upside down here and I'm kind of confused. Okay, so you're there. Okay. Okay, because this is different on here. Okay. And staff, so adjacent to him across the Rexdale Road, is that, it's like a subdivision?
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm asking staff, so the audience is gonna have to, refrain from any outbursts. So, Stacy, so that's a neighborhood?
Yes, so if I could draw your attention, again, the subject property is hatched in green. Across Rex Road, there is a subdivision. It appears to be a one-road subdivision. This gold area is R2, which is a single-family residential zoning district. So all across the road is already zoned R2. And so these lots along this internal street, they're definitely part of a subdivision. I have to tell you, I'm not familiar enough with the property that's on the corner to tell you if it's part of the subdivision or if it was platted as part of the subdivision. I'm not sure, but the zoning of that property is R2.
Okay. So, I've got this map here that shows commercial future land use, but it's a subdivision.
Yes, that is inconsistent. In other words, the boundary of this red area is the subdivision street. So everything from that subdivision street to the corner is indicated for commercial land uses on the future land use map, and that is inconsistent with the current zoning for that quadrant of the road. But I can tell you that at this time, we're working on an update to our future land use map and the entire comprehensive plan, and we do intend to fix inconsistencies such as this.
So then across, I just have one more. So across the street then, from East Atlanta, is that also a subdivision, or is that just homes across there? Or is that just open land?
There's a home.
There's a home there?
Yes.
Okay.
The zoning map shows RA property on the northeast quadrant, and again, R2 property on the southeast quadrant.
So this is the only property right now even though that's a whole quadrant that's a future, supposed to be commercial, that's the only one that's asking for commercial zoning right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, that's what I need. So nothing else has been zoned commercial yet?
Nothing on the corners, only the abutting neighboring property to the north.
And that abutting property is also a residential?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
But it's zoned commercial.
But it's zoned commercial. Okay, that's what I need, because I heard somebody say that something was zoned commercial, and I was just trying to figure out where that was.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, can I eat up about 4.46 minutes of my time that I had 10 minutes? So one thing to note, I mean, we have property, as Mr. Jordan has said, to the north, is on C2. There's no prohibitive uses on that property. Prohibiting the uses on the adjacent property with the same zoning is an arbitrary and capricious act. Meaning, I could go apply for a permit on a convenience store on that property tomorrow without any consent from this body or the Board of Commissioners. But what we're planning to do is enhance it via the highway corridor overlay. And another thing about prohibitive uses, what we deal with in the private land development business, where I've been involved in for 23 years, it's market driven. That's what drives this entire country. Whether it's underground pipe contractors, whether it's land development, whether it's whatever we do. If a convenience store is not a good fit for it, after the ribbon's cut, we'll know in 6 months whether it's not, because he'll have to shut his doors. That is the risk my client, the developer, is willing to take. That should not be forced on him of what a person can and cannot do with their property based on a governing body. And with property zone C2 to the north, without any prohibited uses, why is this parcel going to have prohibited uses? I don't understand. There's nothing in the ULDC other than, well, it's not in the ULDC. There's nothing in the ULDC that prohibits the land use that we're showing right there on that plan. The staff echoes that. Sure, there may be opposition of nobody wanting it, but simply because whoever's at the microphone is the loudest and whoever has the most people lining up doesn't make them right. Y'all have entrusted your staff to interpret this. I can't be any more clear about not prohibiting that use.
Okay, I didn't hear that word. We were just
I can't be any more clear about.
No, I
us
said
not
I didn't hear,
prohibiting that
you
use.
keep saying prohibited, and I'm not hearing that coming from anybody, so I appreciate your comments. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be seated unless the board has any other questions for the applicant. Oh, Mr. Risher, I'm sorry, he has a question for you.
Well, I think this is a question for staff, because I think we ran into similar situations in the southeast part of the county on LaGuin Mill Road, where there was, I think the plan had some kind of an overreach into residential areas, which basically was an encroachment. So when the plan is updated, I would like to have you look at the area that's at the southwest section of this intersection, which I think that's an already developed subdivision. So I think that's, quite a serious encroachment.
And we've noticed others, Mr. Risher and Madam Chair. In other words, if there are established subdivisions, there's no reason for the future land use map to show an increase in density. The entire subdivision is not likely to be redeveloped. In these cases, if a subdivision is showing as commercial, that's an inconsistency. We need to identify all of these and to fix those inconsistencies in this update. And this update will be completed by October of this year.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant or staff? And I'm talking about the board members. Okay, you may be seated. Thank you. Okay, this time we're going to allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. So everybody shares the 10 minutes. So, when 10 minutes is up, come on up. State your name and address for the record. When the 10 minutes is up, I will ask you to be seated.
We had 2 minutes left.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, I can just get you to back up for the microphone just for a second, I apologize. We had 2 more minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Those who want to speak in favor of the case? Okay, I didn't see anybody coming up, and I apologize. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Pete Peterson. All right, for those who want to speak in opposition of the case, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Everyone else, please be seated until you're called up. Thank you so very much. It keeps a little bit of order in here, okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are so nice to be seated. We'll give you time. We'll stop the clock. That way you don't have to run up and, waste your time, okay? Okay, yes, ma'am. It's your turn.
Mildred Schmelz, 170 Dink Scott Court, Ellenwood, Georgia, 30294.
Good evening.
Madam Chair and board members, I want to begin by thanking you each for your service to the people of Henry County. I appreciate and I'm quite familiar with the work being done by you and the staff in making sure that Henry County remains the wonderful county that it is. As the county continues to grow, I know you're being faced with many challenges, and I pray that you will make the right decisions when faced with these challenges. That being said, I'm here to oppose the new convenience store in District 5. I did a little research, and I found the following in the area. Chevron Food Mart, 320 Fairview Road and East Atlanta Road. 3 blocks down, we have a Shell Food Mart, 181 Fairview Road and Dudley Road. Around the corner, there's a Kroger gas station, and also directly from the Kroger, we have an Exxon Foods shop, 1785 Fairview Road and Panola Road. 10 blocks down, we have a Chevron Food Mart, 630 Fairview Road and Thurman Road. 3/4 of a mile, Marathon Convenience Store, 1396 Fairview Road and Martin Creek Court. 3/4 of a mile, a Shell Food Mart, 2992 Highway 155 and Fairview Road across the street. We've got a Chevron, a Patriot Food Store, 6105 Highway 155 and Fairview Road. a total of 8 convenience stores located within the arm's throw of each other does very little for this area. I'm asking that you vote no on putting another one in this area. Once again, I thank you for all that you do and for allowing me to speak here today.
Thank you. All right, and you have someone else come up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Chairman, Commissioners, Lorenzo Lewis, 110 James Ridge Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. I'm in opposition, and the reason being is the same as the lady has already stated. Several convenience service stations are all over the area. At any time or various times, that four-way stop is very congested, and to probably cut to the chase, when is the money going to be allocated for the widening of the road?
We can't answer those questions,
You
so if
can't.
you'll just go ahead and
Okay. That being said, I'm in opposition because of it being a two-lane road in all directions and very congested, and it is a residential area. So, okay.
Okay, the next person would like to come up and speak.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members.
State your name and address.
My name is Audrey Davis, and I'm at 200 Clarkdale Drive. I'm not even a half a mile from where the,
Thank you.
I'm not a half a mile from where they want to put this service station and convenience store. As the lady said, they have about 8 service stations approximately from my house. Is the one that is furthest away is 2.1 miles, and the other one is 1.3, 1.5, 1.4. And diagonally across the street from where the service station is going to be put right there, there's another empty lot right across the street from it. And right across here is a house. And they have subdivisions here at the lane, all the way down. It's mostly residential area. Rex Road and East Atlanta Road has been getting so congested you can't hardly get out of your subdivision at certain times of the day. I oppose having that service station and convenience store placed there. And furthermore, that land floods there. And I'd like to know if he can tell me this other section where, right there where he say it's C1, where is that at?
This is just a comment period, so you'll have to ask the staff after this meeting. They can let you know that.
Okay.
There's a map that should have the name on there.
I think we have enough service stations, and and it's such a nice residential area, and I wouldn't like for it to be having any crime coming into the neighborhood because of a convenience store and service station being placed there. And then it'll be a handicap on the school buses trying to pick up children from school and everything with all the traffic and everything being really congested in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Raymond Davis. I live at 100 Leland Cypress Way, right off of East Atlanta and right down the street from that location. Here goes the issue. I sell real estate. The gentleman said that it will increase the value. I don't believe that's going to increase the value since, just like everybody's already said, there's about 8 gas stations right in that area. Since everybody's on septic tank pretty much up in that area, here goes the issue. If they put another gas station up in that area, across from that neighborhood, there's likelihood as 10, 15, 20 years down the line, that gas might start to seep in other parts of other people's neighborhood. You already have a district up there on Fairview Road that's got enough gas stations. After gas station up in Fairview Road is in the district area, is in the Fairview area. They're not well taken care of. You guys told us that it's going to have a standard up there. We've sat here for the last year and a half, 2 years, and seen Shell gas station. One of the Shells, you got to go inside to pump the gas. So the standards are not quality, as you would see on the north side. So when we moved to Hendry County, we moved to Hendry County for the main purpose of having a better quality of life. Over time, I don't believe that that gas station will keep that standard in that area. It will just start to do like everybody else up there. If you go and look at the gas station that is at Fairview Road and West Panola, right there across the street from the McDonald's, beside them putting up that new sign, it does not look good. It did not enhance the area. Then you got the land that was supposed to be the park. I believe somebody said something about, I wasn't sure if they were trying to develop that area, but that looks very bad. The fence that's in front of it does not do the land any justice. You can still see the buildings that look very dilapidated. So adding another gas station to an area that is already overcrowded, and as a real estate agent, people take that in consideration when they move to a certain area of town. They take in consideration of what do it look like, what does the quality look like, and the whole purpose of creating the Fairview district was to bring up the quality. We don't see that in none of the gas stations up there, none of the convenience store, and over time, I just believe that we will see a area that just continuously go down. Secondly, that road right there is like they said, it's already 2-lane. And unless you're going to widen that road, and even if you widen East Atlanta, it's still going to be 2-lane unless you ride in Rex Road. So why add another gas station, which is going to do nothing but bring more traffic, create a stoplight, and it's just gonna cause more havoc when you already got 6 gas stations up there, and half of them don't look good.
41 seconds. Okay, wait, anyone else? You have 41 seconds, sir.
If y'all don't mind, if I could just ask the audience, for the ones that oppose it, to just raise their hands, because we don't really have enough time to debate it. I'm in opposition.
State your name and address for the record.
I apologize. Raymond Pearson, 432 Milky Way, Stockbridge, Georgia. I live in the Clarkdale Acres subdivision.
This is your chance to have public comment. So it's televised, and we're the board, and we want to hear what you got to say.
My public comment would be who all oppose it.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to be seated if you're going to turn your back to us.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Because
Thank
got
you.
13 seconds.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up? Do we have, 5 seconds? Sir, come up and state your name and address for the record.
Trying to make this as quick as possible in 7 seconds. My name is Walter Toler, resident of 144 Ethel Lane, so this would directly affect us. And just to comment on what everyone said, there's just no need for another gas station, just to keep it short and
Thank
sweet.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You may be seated. Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
I have a question for staff. Stacy, just to reiterate, this is, the future land development is zone commercial, and as of this point, this is a residential area, correct?
Yes. What's illustrated at this time is the current zoning, And so the white shaded areas is agricultural, the yellow and gold shaded areas are single-family residential, the red areas are already zoned commercial. So if the subject property is outlined in green, which is indicated here, the neighboring property to the north is already zoned C2, and there is a residence on that lot. So you wouldn't be able to tell it just by looking, but that property is already zoned commercial.
It's zone commercial, but there is a residence on the lot.
That is correct. And one thing I'd like to add, if I could, is that the ordinance requires that if a development meets a certain threshold, that a traffic study will be required. And so if whatever mix of uses that's proposed for this location exceeds that threshold, which I believe is 750 trips a day, then the applicant, the developer, would be required to conduct a traffic study. So the ordinance has built-in requirements for development such as this. That's beyond what we could recommend as zoning conditions.
Okay, and that traffic study would basically do what?
For example, it would look at the traffic at the intersection. It would look at the traffic that will be generated by the land use mix that's being proposed for this development. And if the difference puts us over the requirement, for example, for a light, then the applicant would be expected to pay a share, their fair share of that requirement. So there are certain things that the county already requires for development to take care of the impact that they'll have on a community.
Stace, I have a question for DOT. Do we see any future plans in terms of East Atlanta Road and Rex Road widening?
For East Atlanta Road, it's been shown for a while in Atlanta Regional as a future widening. Right now, the traffic count, from what I've seen, is around 7,000, 8,000 cars a day. That is below where you would normally widen a road to a 4-lane type roadway. But we did recently ask for federal dollars towards this project and others, but we did not get them for East Atlanta as well. We asked for 5 or 6 and got 2, but it's in the Atlanta Regional. It's in one of our CTP, actually the 2007 it shows up, but right now the traffic count that's out there doesn't technically warrant a 4-lane, at least not this far north at this point in time. But the intersection itself, haven't studied it or had it studied, but I've heard some complaints about the length of the backup at the 4-way stop. So it's conceivable there may in the future need to be, at least if nothing else, something looked at the intersection itself.
What about the condition of Rex? Does Rex Road fall under those same conditions in terms of widening?
No, sir, I don't think Rex is a future widening candidate. It's got about half the traffic volume as East Atlanta in this area.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Any other board members have anything for staff? If not, we're going to go ahead and call the case. All right, let's go ahead and call the case.
Case number RZ-17-29, Muhammad W. Fazamed of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to C2, general commercial, for property located in the northwest quadrant of East Atlanta Road and Rex Road in land lot 188 of the 12th District. The property consists of 5.39 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a convenience store and retail space. This property is located in Commission District 5 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Okay, do I have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion based on the current condition of this area to deny the request for rezoning.
Okay, we have a motion for denial of RZ 1729.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, indicate by raising your hand. Any opposed? Any opposed? I didn't see. Okay, Mr. Peterson, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, so motion carried. All right, next case.
Stacy, I'll get it. Case number COMP-AM-17-08, High Brass Properties of Conyers, Georgia, requested amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road, and land lot 73, 74, 87, and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 128.33 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map from low-density residential to medium-high-density residential. This property is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Mr. Justin Kilgore, Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board.
Good evening.
This case is for a age-restricted residential development for single-family homes and quadruplexes. The request is for a low-density residential future land use map change to medium-high density residential, and just for information purposes, medium-high density residential is 3.6 to 6 dwelling units per acre. If I may, I'm going to show you all the maps, and I'll kind of lean over and talk. This is the subject property. It is located at kind of the intersection of McCullough Road. This is Jonesboro Road right here, and this is the Crystal Lake subdivision, and another road right here. This is Dutchtown, I believe. Here you'll see that the property is currently zoned RA. This portion right here is Georgia Reserve. It'll be a case coming later tonight. Here is the future land use map of the area. As you can see, it is all yellow. That is low density. The request here is for medium-high density for the development of this neighborhood. I just want to get to this right here. Staff has reviewed the request of the applicant, and we are recommending approval of the request based upon the Highway Corridor Overlay District and the policies that the Highway Corridor District supports within the comp plan. Some of those policies, if you see in your staff report, in land use, promote efficient use of land by encouraging well-designed pedestrian-oriented developments that include a mix of uses and creative use of land. There are about 10 supporting policies within the comprehensive plan that would support a development like this. And because this development would be in the Highway Corridor Overlay District, it will require adherence to the higher standards. And for that, staff is recommending approval of this comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, do any board members have any questions for staff? Okay. If we could ask, applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. My name is Dale Hall with Falcon Design Consultants. Address is 235 Corporate Center Drive in Stockbridge, and speaking on behalf of High Brass Properties this evening. Not to go into too much more detail than what staff has said, we want to thank staff for being very thorough in their staff reports and working with us throughout this process. But it is a mixed-use request tonight with quadruplexes and single-family homes in an age-targeted development. We have read the staff report in reference to the comp plan amendment, and we support the recommendation of staff at this time. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members have any questions for staff?
I do. What is a quadplex?
A quadplex is, yeah, very bulked up. No, it's 4 units or a number of units, 4 being quad, that are attached similar to a duplex. They're all attached. They all have their own entryway. They all have their own garage. So it's 4 units put together, maybe like instead of a linear townhome or condominium, they're all arranged with their own area. So it makes it's a quad of buildings put together. Was that, hopefully that
Yeah,
explained it
that
well enough.
does. Just couldn't get a picture in my mind.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
I don't have a question as much as I have a concern about potential. This is another area where you have a lot of, I mean, this is a narrow road. There's already a lot of traffic. Concerned about the traffic issues. I mean, I know there's not necessarily an answer for that, other than that this is another area where it's going to be hard to get in and out. You're going to add definitely to the traffic flow and the volume. So, I'm sure there's a way to address that in terms of access, you know,
Right.
adding a turn lane.
If I may, I'm sure staff will address this further in detail, but Jonesboro Road, or Jonesboro Road, I'm sorry, has plans for widening it this time, and the plans and future development has taken into account the right-of-way that is to be looked at for that, and setbacks have been set off of those new right-of-ways. So it's already on the list, and DOT can certainly expand on that of being developed and widened.
I mean, can we get is there a date on that? Toss it up there, I'll see if it sticks. Is there a date on that road widening project?
This will be popular, but I was looking at the Atlanta Regional, the Transportation Improvement Program. It's a Georgia DOT project, and they're in engineering, and I don't know how accurate the tip is because it's several months behind now as far as the latest update. To show construction in long range, which is 24 through 30, I want to say that GDOT is probably looking at around 24, possibly pulling it back to 23, but I think 24 is kind of where they're looking at construction.
Okay, thank you. And then so, let's say you go forward, and then when would you anticipate having, I guess, full occupancy? How far down the road?
That would be market driven on this, when there would be approvals of this, when there actually be final engineering designs. Right now, we're just looking at a conceptual plan put on boundary surveys and some types of surveys, so that would be some time down the road, and that's, hard to determine at this time.
And it might be helpful, too, for everyone, I know for me, if you could explain a little bit about the landscaping requirements, what this is going to look like, and in terms of green space, what might be added, available. This is a pretty comprehensive plan, what I'm seeing. We're talking about parks and, potential shopping and being able to walk to things. And I'm not walking down Jonesboro Road anytime soon, so... sidewalks. So just explain, if you could, a little bit about what this is going to look like in the end.
Certainly. There is the highway overlay corridor was written for just this purpose. It does require sidewalks certain distances from the street. It does require amenities, benches, trash receptacles and all the like in that area. And as you'll see here later on tonight with Georgia Reserve, we're looking at having connectivity between residential and potential commercial. I don't know if I'm making the buzz, I'm sorry. So we're looking at having connectivity between the proposed Georgia Reserve property and this residential. There's also requirements for open space and amenities that are already put in the overlay corridor, and we were aware of those and will certainly abide by all the requirements of the UDC and overlays.
Why did you pick this particular location? I'm just curious. It was available, or?
It's hard, I really can't state. That would be something that the applicant specifically would do. This is a property that is in a burgeoning area. This is an area that is growing and continuing to grow. With the widening of Jonesboro Road on here, this would be a prime area for this type of development. The mixed use, the residential, the commercial, and having them compatibility with the areas around it.
We did, I know I think on the next case that's coming up, impact to schools, I did see a number. I'm not sure if it's on this case or the one that we'll hear next. 21 additional classrooms.
Yes, ma'am,
That's
on the
without
list.
the age restriction, though, right?
Yes.
Or just, yeah.
They
Because
they
that's a
didn't take that
lot.
into I'm sorry. They
That-
didn't take that in. They didn't take that into consideration. The age restriction, that is, for the
Right,
for the letter.
on that. We'll talk about that later on the next one that's coming up a little bit, okay?
I'm sorry if I broke it.
No problem. It's an ambitious plan, for sure. I don't have any other questions.
Any other, Mr. Risher?
I think this is a question for the staff. How does the proposed density of this project compare with the subdivisions, that are at the south side of Jonesboro Road, such as Crystal Lake Village and several others? It's hard to tell from the from the maps. And here there's an R3 and R4, but the color doesn't really show much difference. But I just wanted to see how this compares with what's already in existence. I know sometimes you all put a table in the reports that makes a comparison, but I didn't see that for this one.
Yes, sir. This would be more as far as the dwelling units per acre. These are all the surrounding areas you see here are low density, the light colored yellow, and low density has a maximum of 2 dwelling units per acre. Okay. And that supports R1, R2, R3 with larger lots.
I think what I was referring to was the current zoning map.
Madam Chair, and Mr. Richard, the zoning of the property to the south of Jonesboro Road is R3, which would typically allow lots that are 18,000 square feet. And so that may bring you up higher into the area of 2 dwelling units per acre, potentially. And that's in line with the range of density in the low-density residential land use category of 1 to 2. And the applicant here is requesting 3.6 to 6 as a medium-high density request.
Okay, thank you.
So at this time, the policy for the area has been low-density residential, between 1 and 2 dwelling units per acre. And that's typically been what we've seen on the south side of Jonesboro Road with these subdivisions zoned R3, which would typically allow lot sizes that would be no smaller than 18,000 square feet. So we're looking at densities that are approaching 2, which is within our policy guide of between 1 and 2. The applicant's request is for medium-high density between 3.6 and 6 dwelling units per acre.
Okay.
But you're recommending approval?
Yes, it does comply with our policies for the Highway Corridor Overlay District. And for that reason, we are recommending approval of the change to our policy guide.
Okay, any other questions from the board members? Okay.
Did your company consider or have any plans showing originally to try to put something in there at the original low density or medium density, or was the only thing you considered was the high density?
We were looking to meet the requirements of the overlay district, the highway overlay, and what we're asking for was within line of that highway overlay. So this is the plans that we've looked at this time.
I understand that. My question was, did you consider anything lower than that, or did you just jump to the higher density?
We looked at doing what was allowed by code, is what we did this time.
The highest thing that was allowed by code?
Within that range, yes.
Okay. So your answer would be no, you didn't consider the lower density?
Okay, I'm going to ask the audience to please not have any outbursts that we can hear up here. It's very distracting, and I appreciate the courtesy if you guys would, and ladies and gentlemen, would just kind of just wait till it's public comment time, and we'll have time to hear that. It's hard for us to have conversations when we've got all this chatter in the background, okay? So I appreciate you guys' consideration of that. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Do we have anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Risher?
I have one more question for the applicant. We just got something tonight right at the start of this meeting, and it shows that you're proposing a net density of 4.89 dwellings per acre. So what prompted that change, suddenly?
I guess I'm missing, if you could say that another way, I guess I'm slightly confused to what the question is. We have done multiple different designs through this process, ranging from higher densities to lower densities of this. This is the one with our conceptual plan that we have this time was the one that best met the site with the environmental features and the layout. But we did do some designs that were much higher density and some that were much lower density, and this is the one we believe that the site could handle without doing further engineering of the site. We also made sure that the density that we asked for was sent to Henry County Water and Sewer Authority, and that was the plan that was sent forward for everyone to review. So if there was another one out there with lower densities or higher densities, we apologize for that. This is the one that we're looking to apply for at this time. It's important to keep in mind that these are concepts, and once we get into engineering of the plan, the number could go up or down depending on more site features that we find on the site. So this is the one that we've applied with tonight, fully knowing that there might be some flexibility once we get to engineering of it.
Okay. Well, what would be the impact of this new proposal on the sewer capacity and also on the roadway capacity? I mean, this is
there is not necessarily a new proposal. What is presented, what you see tonight, is what was applied for and put through to Henry County Water and Sewer originally. So the 4.89 with the number of units that are shown on there is what was applied for. So if there was another drawing, again, it's my apologies with staff if some other drawing got in there.
Madam Chair, may I clarify the question?
Yes,
for
please,
Mr.
go
Risher?
ahead.
Mr. Risher, the water and sewer letter is in the next report. It was written and it says sewage treatment and sewer line capacity is not presently available to the property, and this is for High-Brass, the surrounding property. However, the applicant's request of RS zoning, sewage is a requirement, so it would have to be provided.
All right, any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
And we have about 5 minutes and 35 seconds for those who want to speak in favor of this case. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. So now we're going to allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. So if we can have one person at a time to stand up and come forward, everyone else be seated. We'll stop the clock when that person is done to give you time to walk up. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Tommy Dahl. I live at 146 Hampton Shores Drive, Hampton, Georgia. I live in the Hampton Shores subdivision. I was the first homeowner in there 23 years ago. I'm in opposition of this because, as he said, they wanted to go from low density, which is what the whole area is, to medium to high density. I have several concerns. One being traffic, two being water, three being our first responders, the police, the fire, and the schools. Took me several minutes to get out of my subdivision tonight to come to this meeting with cars zooming by both east and west. I've heard that they may widen this road, and I can see that presenting another problem for the about 7 subdivisions that front and enter Jonesboro Road. They're probably either going to have to go down a quarter of a mile to get a turnaround rather than come right out of their subdivision, depending on which way they're turning. So I see that as a problem. As far as the water, during the recession, of course, building stopped. A lot of those subdivisions on the south side of Jonesboro Road you spoke of, the building stopped. About 2 years ago, it started back up with the economy recovering. I can tell a significant difference in my water pressure. If I get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, got really strong water pressure. Turn it back on at 6:30, 7 o'clock when people are up trying to get ready to go to work, you can tell the difference. So I can imagine if you put 300 or 400 more residents pulling on that water, it's going to make an additional difference. As far as the schools, I believe the schools already have trailer classrooms out there now, don't they? I mean, you're going to have to put more of them. That's not good for our kids. The fire and police. Saw a fire spokesman the other day on television, just a couple of nights ago, saying how they only have 2 firemen per truck, which is insufficient. And now you're going to create a high-density potential hazard of fires. You've seen all the apartments in Atlanta on the news in the last few weeks going up. So you're going to put a burden on our fire department. The police, the same thing. I don't know what the per capita number is that you want to have per police or per fireman, but that's going to throw that out of whack. And then the last thing is, we haven't even started to realize the impact of the major project that's going over on Jodico Road in the area. Thank you. I am opposed.
Good evening. My name is Dan Junkens. I live at 3759 Jonesboro Road, directly, not a subdivision. My house was, or my lot was on one of those maps there. We moved in 1994. I don't believe there were any subdivisions at that time. My immediate concern is I've lived here for 24 years. I'm building my house. I'd love to retire there. Henry County's growing. The area is not growing, but the population is growing. I know I will not be able to retire in my house on Jonesboro Road. We were told in 1994 it was going to be widened. We were told, we saw a map in 2011 that was supposed to start construction in 2013. I don't know how much, if I should invest any money in my 50-year-old house to keep it up, knowing the county's going to take half of my front yard for Jonesboro Road. So do I let it dilapidate, or do I spend what little money I'm trying to build for my retirement to get my house up so that it can be constructed, knocked down for a gas station? Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. Harry Hergens, 98 Shoreline Way. It's a Hampton mailing address, 30228. I'm in Pates Lake subdivision, right next to Hampton Shores, one of the previous speakers. Excuse me, I'm fighting off a cold. And I've got all the same concerns as the previous speakers. I think my biggest is the traffic. We moved there 25 years ago. Bought a brand new house before the subdivision was done. We've seen exit 221 go from a lot of trees to a lot of retail. We've seen Jonesboro go from a quiet street to a very busy street. As someone already said, at certain times of day, we can't get out of our subdivision. Traffic coming this way and then that way and then this way again. Sometimes you have to wait 5 minutes to take that left turn. That's only going to get worse if we put more houses there. Now, I'm not against development. My dad was a contractor. He built houses. My younger brother was a contractor. But the road's not big enough. And it's not just the road not being big enough. It's the fact you've got individual residences and subdivisions on a road where there's no other access except that road. And it's too busy. So not only does it need to be widened, and I've heard the stories too for 25 years, oh, it's going to be widened soon, but widening's not going to be enough to let people get in and out of our subdivisions. Are we going to put a light on every subdivision? Probably not. I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't know how you fix that, but widening the road isn't enough. So the traffic's a problem, and the school's a problem. There's 20 trailers at Dutchtown High now. How many more trailers you're going to add? Is there even room for that many trailers if you build these houses? So I'm not opposed to it happening, but I'm opposed to it happening before the road is widened, and maybe before you start building the next school, before you have the kids that need to sit in it. So I just think we need the infrastructure to catch up before we build the next 300 houses. Thank you.
My name's Terry McAfee. I'm at 603 Morgan Court in Hampton, Georgia, the Hampton Shores subdivision. I'm just going to speak in the same line that everybody else has so far. Jonesboro Road is a major artery that runs east and west, and most of the subdivisions feed directly onto Jonesboro Road. There's no other way to get out of your subdivision without getting on Jonesboro Road, so there's not a second or third street that you can take. So that feeds all of this traffic, and it is just ridiculous at the amount of traffic that we have. And I've been to the meetings in 2011 when they talked about that the road would be widened. They even said that McCullough Road probably would turn into a cul-de-sac at that time, and there wouldn't even have a road that would come out that way. It sounds like that would change here with that. But there's just so much going on Jonesboro Road. There's so many homes there already. And to take that many homes with the quadruplexes and dump all of that out on Jonesboro Road, I don't see how that could possibly work. And then all the other things that they've already talked about, the water issues, the transportation issues, the police, the fire. Jonesboro Road is just not the place for this type of community, especially as it's designed right now. You know, 20 years from now, whenever Jonesboro Road is widened and it's developed and you wanted to build something like that, it's a possibility, but this is way before it could even reasonably work right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam and Board. Todd Moore, 3779 Jonesboro Road, Hampton, Georgia. You hear a lot of these people saying that they've moved to that area. I was born and raised in the area. We live right on Jonesboro Road, like Mr. Juncoot said. Matter of fact, my grandfather built his house that he lives in. And I've been to all the meetings where we've added these subdivisions, the Hampton Shores, Pates Lakes, the ones around us now, the ones building behind us, and they're good quality subdivisions with low density. And I think it's only prudent as a commission, a board, that you consider that and keep our community in somewhat as good a shape as it can be based on the traffic, based on the terrain of that road. Where they're building this, these don't show the hills that you're going over and the curves. Like, just it's out right in front of it. So again, I'm not opposed to a project like this if the infrastructure was there. Right now, we don't have it, and I don't see it happening. I've asked the DOT on several occasions. Nobody can give you a clear answer on what's even going to happen. So at this point, I would respectfully ask that you guys deny this and all the others that are going to follow it that are associated with this. Thank you.
Hi, Angela Rains, 254 Traditions Lane, the Traditions subdivision. Our subdivision is already impacted by bad planning. I think that I'm going to urge you to say no to this. This is premature. Make sure that we've done a study and we have clear plans on the infrastructure before moving ahead on anything like this. The schools will be impacted. Protection will be impacted. Safety will be impacted. There are too many unknowns, and there are too many things that have been planned that have not happened yet. Again, I urge you to say no.
Thank you. If the board members have any questions for the applicant or staff before I bring them up, before we call the case? All right, so we'll go ahead and call the case.
COMP AM 1708, Highbrass Properties of Conyers, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road, in land lots 73, 74, 87, and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 128.33 plus or minus acres and the request is to amend the future land use map from low-density residential to medium-high-density residential. The report was presented by Justin Kilgore, Planner 1, and this is District 2.
Do you have a motion for this case?
I will. I make a motion to go with staff recommendation to approve the request.
Okay, I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicating by raising your hand. You seconded it, Mr. Nelson. All in favor by raising your hand. Okay. All right. All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next case, please.
RZ 1715 High Brass Properties of Conyers, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road in land lots 73, 74, 87, and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 128.33 plus or minus acres, and the request is to rezone for residential development. The report is presented by Justin Kilgore, Planner 1, and this is District 2.
Okay.
Madam Chair and Board, again. If I may, I'm going to use the same maps here to show y'all the property in question, the aerial. Once again, this is McCullough Road. This is Jonesboro Road and Dutchtown. The current zoning of the property, as well as the surrounding properties, are currently RA with some R2 and R3 across the road. And the future land use map is low density at this time. And once again, here is the layout for the property. And I'm going to swap these two real quick. And here's the survey of the property. If I can get zoomed in on that, or if I'll just move it, I'll probably mess them up. And once again, here's the site plan. The proposed rezoning here is from RA to RS, which is residential suburban. The current land use is undeveloped land as well as single-family residence. Staff has reviewed the request and has looked at the criteria points as well as the provisions in the Highway Corridor Overlay District and how they support policies within the comprehensive plan. And staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request. We've discussed some conditions, and staff would like to recommend 2 conditions. And that is for the development to be limited to housing for active adults 55 and older, and the second one that the net density shall be limited to the 4.89 dwelling units per acre, which is at the applicant's current request. I can answer any questions if you like.
Okay, do any board members have any questions for staff?
Well, again, the impact to the schools, because I am concerned about that. There's a pretty significant change from 62 to 55 in terms of age, and the likelihood that someone in that age group would have children. But I know I'm 57, and I had a 18-year-old graduate from high school last year, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you would see an impact to the schools. And I think your estimate, based on what the Henry County Board of Education uses, the formula, would be an additional 21 classrooms, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And if you like, I can read the portion. It's a paragraph or so, but.
Sure, why don't you do that, because that might help clarify.
The school board, in a letter dated October 11th, 2017, the Henry County Board of Education assigned a factor of 2 when calculating the number of students. So this is for an example. This was a previous conceptual site plan. With 268 dwelling units, the Board of Education would expect 536 school-age children, and if they limit the number of children to 25 per classroom, 21 extra classrooms would be needed. And taking into consideration that this letter does not reflect that it would be a age-restricted community, this is their standard calculation.
Right. So obviously that's going to change with the age restriction, but there will be there could be some impact to the schools. And when was the request for the those changes made? To change from 62 to 55 and then on the net density? Because that's different from the original
Yes, ma'am,
request.
it is. That came in between the time of initial application submittal, and as you may recall, this case was supposed to go a couple of meetings ago, and there's since been updates in between that time.
I see, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for staff. We talk about costs of schools and road and widening of roads and things like that, and building in our county and how that's done, and we as a zoning board, we have to take all that into consideration. But with these homes that are being built, the people that move into these homes, they will be paying taxes. And those taxes will have taxes that go toward the schools, which would give them more money, and then also would give the county money for roads, which right now I think, and I'm not the tax person in the county, so, but just from what I know, there's a budget, and I think some of the reasons that some of the things don't get fixed the way we want to get fixed is there's a budget, and there's money that has to be applied to that. So I don't think we have a moratorium on building or residentials or businesses or anything like that in the county. I think the county's looking that we're growing, and we just got to make sure that when we grow, that we do it in such a way that it's not going to be so impactful, but we can't stop it. So, and for me, taking it from low to medium, that was very impactful. But knowing there's going to be more residents in there paying those taxes, that's something you kind of, so if it's where they're not having folks in the school, as you were saying, it's more age restricted as far as, older, they may not have so much in the school system. They'll still be paying the taxes. So I don't know, if that's the impact there. If there's something that we can do as a zoning board to help, with the impact of that. We're not going to stop it because that's the growth in Henry County. But we're talking about impact of, we don't have control over the roads either and when those are going to be built. But we're talking about tax money and things coming in and the money that's going to be derived from businesses and from the taxpayers. So for me, it's a matter of, what we allow in that tax base. And so, and this is the zoning, and so we've changed it now and for an age restriction from 62 to 55. And so I guess and Susan, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but the reasoning behind that was?
That was the applicant's request.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. So what was the first condition a condition that the staff put there, or was that from them? Was that from the original applicant's request?
Yes, ma'am. That was a staff condition, and that was based on an age restriction and partly on assumption of seniors. So staff assumed at the time that 62 and older would be seniors. But after conversations with the applicant, this is designed to be more active adult targeted community. So 55 was more appropriate.
Look, and I don't want to say the name of these subdivisions, but there is a subdivision that is DW. Del Webb. Is that Is that what this is supposed to be? I'm trying to just wrap my mind around what this subdivision is. He said it was conceptual, so it actually, if we approve it, anything can go in there, is correct? Unless we put the age restriction on there. Okay, right, because he said it was conceptual in the earlier conversation. So we can't hold him to that, except for right here on this condition on the zoning. So Susan, I'm kind of talking out loud and thinking and saying, you know, what is it that's going here? What's the, you know, what is that? So that would be something I guess we can ask the applicant and just kind of get more information, just so the public can know what's going on and what's going to go in here and the whys and hows and all that sort of thing, and how it's going to be impactful, and what we can do as a zoning board to help, you know, address that situation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So if we don't have anything else, I guess need to get the applicant up here and let's talk about it. Anybody else have anything they want to ask this staff? Okay. I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and an address again for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. Again, I'm Dale Hall, speaking for Falcon Design Consultants. We are at 235 Corporate Center Drive in Stockbridge, speaking on behalf of the applicant, Highbrass. There are a couple items that were brought up, and I'll try to address those as succinctly as possible. The original application was for an age-targeted community, which would be 55 and older. 62 and older is a retirement community. This is not necessarily a retirement community. The amenities, the trails, and all those are more targeted for the active lifestyle. Being near that age, not having any kids at home, I don't want to move into a retirement community myself. However, there could be individuals in there that are 62 and older. We're not saying they can't be. We're just targeting for the more active adult area, and how it mixes in again with another product or the other adjacent rezoning later. It's a good mix between the two. Additionally, there were some concerns about traffic. When we get to, if we get to a point where we get the ability to move forward with this, any development on this would be required to have a traffic study, and that would impact the roads, impact the entrances and exits into this site, and maybe even impact items such as traffic lights and how it affects ingress and egress into the site. So those are two main items I want to make sure everyone's aware of. If it is an age-targeted community, it would have much less impact on the schools, and we would certainly be required to do a traffic study that would meet all the requirements of the county if we move forward with development. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, board members have any questions for the applicant?
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I think it's kind of self-explanatory unless you get into the mechanics of it and specifics. But I mean, I think that the infrastructure issues that people are concerned about, the long-term planning or vision is not necessarily in our control. And I think many of the concerns that people have expressed here tonight are issues that are not in this board's control or necessarily my control when I make a motion to vote, but rather our job, or my job as I see it, as it's been explained to me, is to examine the criteria that's given and consider the planner's recommendation, because they have a certain set of guidelines to consider above and beyond what I am aware of, and take that into account as pretty solid information. And so I guess I want to say a lot of the things I think we're concerned about with this particular project and others are things that really, for this particular board, it's not something that we can necessarily control or deal with. And I would say to you folks who are concerned, talk to Dee and go to the next county commission meeting or see when these cases, because this is not the final stop for these, and show up at that meeting. I don't know what else to say about that, because I know it's a concern and it's hard to vote, but you have to understand that the job in this chair is to say, does it meet the criteria? What is the planner's recommendation? I hear your concerns, and I get that. I live right around the corner. Both my kids graduated from Dutchtown High School. My kids went to Pates Creek. I know the area. I'm over there all the time. I understand the concerns. But I also think that a lot of the infrastructure issues we have nothing to do with. And those have been issues that have been building up for years that do need to be addressed, but that is out of our control. And at some point, someone will have to deal with it. They're going to have to cough up the cash and widen the roads and fix the issues, or they are going to have a problem. So I don't know what else to say. I don't really have any questions. I think, your plan is fine as far as I can see.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
So we have about 8 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. 8 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay, now we'll have, I guess folks are leaving instead of coming up. Okay, so now we'll have 10 minutes to those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Tommy Dahl.
10 minutes to speak in favor of the case.
I'm Tommy Dahl, 146.
2 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Please just wait till you come to the podium if you have a question. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't. Okay, now you may proceed.
I'm Tommy Dahl, 146 Hampton Shores Drive. I'm against this proposition, as I was with the other one, for the same reasons. We would like to keep the area low density. It's more inclined with the area, and I think better suited. I almost chuckle listening. He wants to put a senior housing close to a high school. My daughter owned the house on Oxford Court, and during football season, you hear racket all night. Also, you got young men, and I was one of them 60 years ago, squeal out of there with their cars or their motorcycles. I don't think older people want to be around that, but that's just my thought. It appears to me these projects they're proposing would be much better suited on the other side of 75. You've already got a extended highway and a lot of open land. So to me, it'd be better for them to move over there. I also have a question. Did I understand that y'all just approved the other project of high density on Jonesboro Road?
Yes, sir, that was approved.
That was approved, okay. Thank you. I won't waste your time anymore.
My name is Richard Adams. I live at 3608 Jonesboro Road, Hampton, Georgia, about 4 plots of land down from this subdivision on the same side of the road. Several years ago, when the county was growing, I rezoned my land and was only allowed very low density, 4-sided brick houses on my property. Jumped through all kinds of hoops to get that. Back and forth zoning board, but that's ancient history, but it was zoned low zoning. I'm very disappointed in the board has not maintained low density zoning for this area. That being said, dropping it from 62 to 55, I know very few people at 62 who still have kids in school. I know lots of people at 55 who have kids in school. You're gonna tax the school system, dealing with just this amendment or zone, whatever it is. Do not lower the age. Now, I appreciate the limiting to 4.89 rather than going to 6. I appreciate that part of it, but the lowering the age is wrong on this. It's gonna tax the schools even more that are already overtaxed. My wife works for the school system. She can tell you that schools are already overcrowded. Don't lower the age. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Edwards. I'm at 549 Heirloom Drive, which is Tradition at Crystal Lake. I just come out to speak to what they're asking is to put a duplex in there. I know you guys, with the tax dollar you get with the homes, you're talking about $400,000 homes. Come over here, Katie, stop. You're talking about homes that's valued as high as $400,000 or more. They're talking about putting duplex. I have a question for them. Is this rental or this owned? How are they going to put that there? Also, with the traffic, you already have enough. Sorry. No, you can't talk. You already have enough with traffic. You know, I had a couple of accidents. You had people get killed on this road. And I understand, they check their mailbox, and I pass by at times, the ones that live on Jonesboro Road, and they barely can get their mail out. So it's okay if they just build houses over there, that's fine. But you're saying go ahead and put the duplex over there. What's gonna happen is you guys are gonna allow all the homes that have been built, people are gonna be moving out, they're gonna sell their homes, and they're gonna end up leaving because you guys are deciding to say, yeah, sure, put your duplex out there, build on top of homes, and that's gonna cause more of a problem in the area. Thank you.
Let your daughter say something. Let her just state her name and address for the record.
All right, come on, you gonna
I
stop
want
the
her
time?
to have her 15 minutes of fame, right
You
there.
gonna stop the time? Go ahead, say what you wanna say.
I've been living in Traditions of Crystal Lake for like a year and a half, like a year and this year, and I really don't want to leave because, I love my school and I have tons of friends, and parents might go to other schools, and me not go to the same schools, and I don't want to out and then I miss all my friends, not to make new friends. And that's complicated for me. So.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
What's your name?
Katie.
And where do you live, Miss Katie?
549 Heirloom Drive.
549 Heirloom Drive.
And that's in where, Hampton?
Hampton, Georgia.
Okay, thank you so very much, and we appreciate your comments tonight. Let's give her a hand. She was very brave. Future leader of Henry County.
Hello, Madam Chairman. I'm Jean Canfield. I live at 3488 Jonesboro, almost next door to this. And I agree with all the other people who have said things, but also you have Crystal Lake and Traditions and Winter Creek, and those are very nice homes, and you're going to put in quadruplexes near them and take down their property value. And I agree with the man who just spoke that people are going to leave and sell their houses for less, and there goes your tax base. And you've had this tax base from Crystal Lake and Traditions, and you still haven't widened the road, increased water and other things. But I'm really against this. I understand that there would be houses there, but I would expect it to be the same to the similar, $800,000 homes and 6,000 square foot homes. And then you're going to put in quadruplexes near it. And I agree with all the other things that we're saying about the road. I mean, it's impossible to get out of our entrance now sometimes. And just what they're putting in the back of Traditions, it goes all the way over to Babbs Creek now. That's going to be a horrendous thing in the morning and as people go out to work and take their kids to school. And when they come back, it's the infrastructure is not there for this, and I oppose the multifamily homes there anyway. And this is for all 4 of these items that I'm speaking. And I think everybody here and the people who gave up and left also agree with that. Thank you.
My name is Erica Harris, and I'm at 178 Traditions Lane, Hampton, Georgia. I agree with everyone before us, and I appreciate your time as citizens of our community that you represent us in zoning. So we do appreciate that, and I'm glad that you allow us to share this, and it's important that we get this chance. I want you to think about the 60-year-olds that are going to lower the age of 55. I'm 40. I don't have children. I will have children. I could live in that community and not have to, and my children will go to that. You're having more and more people that are in that age group that are having children, raising children that will have to go to that area. And I'm not sure, I know you mentioned that everyone pays taxes, but I know in some counties, and since I'm not at that age, I don't look at what they have to pay, but at a certain age in Henry County, do you no longer pay educational taxes? And that will be a question I would consider asking. Also, I've seen a development like this in another community where it was supposed to be for seniors, and when the housing market crashed or there was financial issues, they could no longer advertise to us seniors. They had to come back to zoning. Zoning made a decision to say, we want it filled. So they opened it up, and it was duplexes, and it was opened up to anyone that wanted to move in those homes. So again, you will no longer have your older adults, which I think is a wonderful idea for that area, but please consider that. Things can happen in the future. Also, Traditions has over 100 homes in it now. We have a new addition that will, on the end of our subdivision, that has no outlet with another 100 homes. So that's 200 homes directly across your entranceway that was not mentioned when he laid it out. He only talked about Crystal Lake, but Traditions that's right there that will be directly across it. We can't get out of our subdivision now in the morning going to the left. It takes forever. We have road issues. We have potholes that have been filled 4 different times in the last 3 months that will continue to be a problem. I know that's not your problem, but I think it's something we should all consider with this when we're approving things. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have about 2 minutes.
How you doing? Good evening, Scotty Gavin. At 500 Heirloom in Hampton, Georgia, 30228. This is my second home in Henry County. I've been a resident for almost 20 years now. And just as the last citizen just spoke of, anything that's zoned, I believe, with the age restriction coming in, as I believe that's just a gateway to get into, to get a yay. For the most part. I bought my last house at the age of 28 in a 55 and older community. I didn't stay there, of course, very long, as this is my second house, but at the same time, if anything market-driven by the economy, there's ups and downs. Eventually, there'll be another request in here in whatever time frame to even get rid of the age restriction after we put these duplexes and others in there. I'm definitely opposed to the number of homes that are proposed for this particular area for those various reasons that everyone else spoke of. The density and what's going on in Traditions now, I think has been very poor planning. I think that to not show that in the screen due to, I think, just the geographic map of what they're showing, what's going on there now that's being developed, we need to take that into consideration as those homes have not been built. I live in the first stop sign in Traditions, which has already been paved. Of course, there'll never be a widening effect, I'm sure, to that road or those residents. The number of dump trucks and other building materials that are coming in there, really excessive, and it's already dangerous enough for the kids and residents that are there. So that's really all I have to say. Sorry.
Okay, anyone else want to come up, state your name and address for the record?
My name is
please?
Paul Kerr. I live at 186 Shoreline Way, Hampton. One thing that hasn't come up is the environment. There are 6 bald eagles in this area, 3 nesting pairs. And I hope there's been a study done. That's a picture taken in my backyard. There's all kinds of wildlife that runs through here. I didn't hear it come up. You're about to be embarrassed. This is not going to be built. There's bald eagles all over the place back there. Thank you.
Do the board members have any questions for the applicant or staff before we call them up, or we'll call the case? Okay, Ms. Susan.
Or staff or applicant, both.
Okay, both please come up forward. The applicant and staff, please come forward.
How is the age restriction enforced in terms of selling? How do you enforce that in terms of the age restriction?
That could be something that would be placed on the covenants and restrictions of the site. It could be placed, if it's a condition of zoning, that's the way it would be written up. There's multiple ways to do that, but it would be an age targeted for that age group and forward. One of the things that people have to understand is when you do an age targeted development, you're also designing the house style, the amenities, all these type things for people. You're targeting those people of that age. So you're not going to have, things that are bringing people with children into that area, because it's just not really conducive to that lifestyle. So when you say age targeted, you're talking about the entire development and how they all come together in one design concept. So it's very important to understand that. It's not just a term, it's wrapped up in the whole construction of the site.
And then this will be a situation of home ownership or rental?
Well, the intent, of course, is to sell all of this. But there's
Right.
no, over years, over time, how do you control that when someone sells something like that?
Well, you
That
would
goes to a
have-
code
you-
enforcement issue with
You
the.
could have that built into the covenants,
Mhm.
I suppose, in terms of a cap on a certain percentage that could be rented or none that could be rented.
Right, and then, then again, how do you know if someone's a real, unless you have a strict knocking at the door and see who lives there, and over time,
Right.
you would, we understand the
Yeah,
difficulty in that
I'm just
over
saying,
time.
that's something that I think that you can try to control.
Right, certainly. And the intent of this, again, is to give not only the community a nice product, but we want to be able to make this a product that you can sell, that people want to come there. There's going to be a destination spot with that, with the next items that we're coming to talk about later. So it's not going to be just something that puts up. We want to be able to, have this be a landmark design in an area that people are going to be proud of.
I don't have any more questions, I don't think.
Do you know, as far as the development concerned, what the plan is as far as like the value of the homes that will be going in there?
Can you say it again,
The
please?
value of the homes that would be going in there, do you have any idea?
It's
as
hard to do a
developer?
value, it's all market-driven,
It's all-
okay?
okay.
Average price, $100 per square foot of home, how that all averages out.
Okay.
And, so there'll be several different model styles and model types that individuals can choose to go in there. They won't all be the same house through there, there'll be several different model styles. Now, the individual doesn't have specific individuals building these houses yet, because that's speculatory at this
Right,
time.
right,
So
right.
we're just dealing with the zoning at
You
this
just
time, and we'll
design it,
address
right,
those
right.
later.
So then the quadplexes that's just conceptual also, is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's a quadruplex, and that's something that's, again, in the code for the RS zoning that we're trying to find or follow the code of the county's code.
Okay, so that RS allows for that?
Yes, ma'am, it does. And
okay.
if you'd like to, I can read you off the square footage, minimum square footage requirements for
For
RS
that-
zoning.
Yes, because I'm really not familiar with the RS.
Yes, ma'am. There's several things that are allowed in RS. So the first one would be single-family homes. The minimum square footage, the minimum heated square footage is 1,800 square feet. For one-bedroom apartments, they are 650 square feet. Two-bedroom apartments are 900 square feet. And for each additional bedroom, there's a 200 square foot requirement, over two. Keep in mind, there's no apartments that were on this conceptual plan. They were quadruplexes, but
So actually apartments could go in here if we didn't put a restriction on apartments? I'm asking staff.
I'll defer to the director on that one, but yes, ma'am, I believe so.
Technically, based on the zoning district, if approved for RS, yes.
Unless we put a restriction on apartments.
That
Are
would,
we allowed to do that?
you can, here's the thing. When it comes to content, we have to be very careful.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. That's why I asked the question. Okay.
I have a question for staff. Now, you didn't list the quadplex in that description. So where does that fall within the RS?
That would fall in the apartment portion of it, sir.
Yeah, it's considered because it's a duplex, yeah. I don't have anything else. Susan, anybody else? Mr. Risher?
I guess a question for staff and the applicants, and I think that, throughout the report, it's kind of a balancing thing of the, with the highway overlay district, which impacts this project. And I think there's about 10 criteria that, that states the purpose of this highway district. I think much of which is, a mix of different types of the land uses and the general, I guess the general design criteria for aesthetics and things like that. But yet I think it still gets back, to the point of that as a zoning board, we have to consider density, because that impacts everything: schools, traffic, sewer and water capacity. So I think still fundamentally that's our role, as a board, here to weigh that versus, design criteria and which ones we want to emphasize the most.
I have a question. Just for clarification of what could go in a medium density. Is only RS can go in a medium density, or could it be, what else could it be in there?
So we're looking at RS, which could go in a medium high density. Even single families such as R5 or R4 could go in a medium high density. So it's not just RS. Also, mixed use is allowed in medium high density as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, do you have a question?
Well, I was just trying to see, because they have it, they're asking for RS, and I was just trying to see what else could go in medium density besides RS, because the question I asked earlier was, can we put a restriction for no apartments? And I kind of heard that's not something that's looked upon as, and then I'm thinking if we, could there be other things like a R5 or R4 that could go in there beside the RS? I'm just kind of throwing that out to the board just for consideration, just to address the situation of the quads or the apartments or things like that. So that's just, I'm just throwing it out there just for informational purposes to see if that's something that, we want to consider. But
Is that an option? Dante, would that be an option? To tinker with that RS designation? The concern is about the apartments.
Technically, yes, it's an option to ask the applicant if they are agreeable to a different zoning district. Considering that this is what they have requested and staff has reviewed it per our regs and made an objective recommendation based on what our policies support or not, it is within our practice to see what our policy supports, make the recommendation based on what's requested. Now, once it gets to the Board of Commissioners, it could be a different story.
okay, so as Susan had said earlier, what we're hearing tonight is based upon what has been submitted and then your plan review of that submittal. Okay. And then it would be the Board of Commissioners, if they wanted to so change it to a different zoning, they would do that up there at that point.
Yes, that is within their discretion, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that answered that question then. Okay. We're just trying to educate ourselves up here. All righty. Anybody else have any questions? Pete, did I hear you say? Okay. All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Go ahead and let's call the case.
RZ 1715 High Brass Properties of Conyers, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road, in land lots 73, 74, 87, and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 128.33 plus or minus acres, and the request is to rezone for residential development. The report was presented by Justin Kilgore, Planner 1, and this is District 2.
Do I have a motion for this case?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that the board goes with staff recommendation approval of this request with the conditions the development shall be limited to housing for active adults 55 and older, and the net density shall be limited to 4.89 dwelling units per acre.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Who was that, the second? Mr. Nelson? Okay, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, if you call the next case, please.
COMP AM 1709, Georgia Reserve of Conyers, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road west of McCullough Road in land lots 87 and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 30.78 plus or minus acres, and the request is to change the future land use map designation from low-density residential to medium-high-density residential. The report is presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, Planner 1 in District 2.
Good evening again. The comprehensive plan amendment before you this evening is for the property located at 3424 and 3262 Jonesboro Road, shown in the green hatched area on the overhead. The request is to change from low-density residential, which allows 1 to 2 dwelling units per net acre, to medium-high density residential, which allows 3.6 to 6 dwelling units per net acre. The purpose of this request is for a mixed-use development, and there is a rezoning case running concurrently with this, which requests mixed-use zoning. The minimum future land use designation needed to support the applicant's request is medium density, allowing 2 to 3.6 dwelling units per net acre. The net density of the proposed development would be 2.53. However, for consistency, the applicant has requested the same future land use designation for this subject property as their other rezoning requests that you've just heard, which is medium-high density. With that said, planning staff recommends denial of the applicant's request to change the future land use map designation to medium-high density, and recommends approval to change the future land use map designation to medium density. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Do any board members have any questions for staff? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. If not, we'll ask the applicant to please come forward.
I'm sure you're getting sick of seeing me this evening,
We
but
are
I'm going to be
not.
here for a
Go
little
ahead
while
and
longer.
State your name again for the record for this case.
Dale Hall with Falcon Design Consultants, and the address is 325 Corporate Center Drive in Stockbridge, speaking on behalf of the applicant, which is Georgia Reserve LLC. Again, I thank staff for being thorough in the presentation and assistance in support of the staff report. And we understand that we are, the staff is recommending a denial of the application for 3.6 to 6 units per acre. We did that for uniformity of the entire project area. There are 2 separate projects, but we are looking to have them cohesive in the actual comp plan. But we do understand that the recommendation of 2.0 to 3.6, which is the medium density residential, is what the staff is recommending. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Julie, can you, I don't have that last page in my book, and so somehow I guess I missed that.
Which page?
The page where I have page 1 and 2, and then it stops.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else is. Is that page 3?
It should.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for your recommendation, and I didn't have it in my book. Does everybody else have it in their reports? You don't have it? Okay. Okay. So anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Well, what are we going to do with this? What's going to happen here?
Certainly.
What's going to happen here?
This is the design plan for this. Do you have that? Is for a mixed-use development. The key to this development is to have, again, that mixed use, to make it a work, live, and play area. is mixed use with commercial and residential. This would be a destination place for retail, professional buildings, civic entertainment and cultural buildings perhaps. There is design for, in the main corridor where you'll see the two circles, it looks like a lollipop, I guess, or dumbbell. That's the main drive into the site. The units that are surrounding the northern cul-de-sac area would be a mixed use with residential, or with commercial, office, stores on the bottom floor, and the top floor would be residential use. And there would also be open space mixed in through there and connectivity to the surrounding residential area. So this would be a place for restaurants, cultural uses, mom and pop shops, and things of that sort. The big thing is add in the commercial element of the residential area in the area. We think that would be a great asset to not only this development, but to surrounding areas.
I mean, it's ambitious for sure. I don't really have any other questions.
I've got a question.
Okay, Mr. Frotman.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. Your chart on the side of that shows the building square footage and the number of units. In each one of those boxes, you've got residential, 950 square feet, 20 units.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that the residential unit's going to be 45 square feet?
No. What we're saying there is that's the minimum size that is required in the code, the 950 square units, and there would be 20 of those. Now that's the minimum size. They could be larger than that. If they're two bedroom, they'd be larger. If, as was read earlier by the staff. But each one of these units here would have a certain number of residential units on the upper floors of that. Back to the old Main Street downtown area where
Right.
you have the corridor with the living on top. So that was the intent of the design.
But under your building square footage, you're showing 25,000 feet retail, 25,000 feet office, and 950 of that building listed for residential. So you've got a total of 50,000 square feet for commercial?
I guess I'm not really sure what the question is. The size of each of those units are different depending on the square footage that they're laid out there. They would be multi-level stores. So you could have, let's say, commercial on the bottom, and then the next level will be office, and then residential on top. But the numbers that are shown on there correspond with the layout of the site as shown. I guess if maybe we should have color coded it to make it a little more.
Well, I was just trying to parse out the numbers in the building square footage column with the number of units you've got in the other column.
They are labeled with a Pod A, Pod B, and Pod C, which corresponds with the layout. So the Pod A mixed use, and my eyes aren't good enough to see that myself.
But this is all conceptual, right? I mean, we're kind of getting into the weeds of what's going there. It's just, I mean, this is what's going to be allowed to go there.
And this is, again, conceptual design. If we move to a development of this, there'll be engineering on this, and things will shift and turn, but these will be again, multiple designs that we had. These are the ones that we think as professional planners and engineers could fit the site and meet the requirements of the site and traffic and all of those. So it is a conceptual, it is conceptual in nature as it is right now.
Did he answer your
Okay,
question?
thank you.
And so it has to be turned into you can have commercial and residential in this meeting? Okay.
Sorry.
That was the question I had. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
We have 7 minutes for anybody who wants to speak in favor of the case. Okay. All right, now we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case.
Hi, good evening. My name's Kathy John. I have lived at 182 Shoreline Way in Hampton, Georgia for 21 years. As you've heard from other speakers earlier, you can tell that the area has greatly changed. The traffic, the infrastructure, the police, the fire, the schools. Now I think you're seeing a little bit more on the concept here. We're not just talking about 616 additional cars per household. We're talking about restaurants, stores, and additional things being brought into this area on a 2-lane road. There is no other way for the fire department in Henry County to get to the rest of us if there's an accident on this road in this area. I think these are really some considerations. This is flip-flop. The infrastructure needs to grow before we add all this volume and capacity. As you heard earlier, on the south side of the road has already expanded greatly. We just really can't handle more traffic on this road, the infrastructure, the schools, the water, the utilities. Now, if we're bringing in the retail, we're also looking at additional crime rates. So how is the police going to respond to that? I understand that there's more taxes coming, but for the rest of us whose values are being lowered by this type of project, what are we going to do? We're going to say, I guess it's time to move. And then who's going to come in? It's going to be lower and lower. Our property values are going to go down. In the meantime, with the fire department having obstructions to get to our houses, are our insurance rates going to rise? You know, it was also mentioned earlier about the wildlife around. That's true. That was my neighbor. We do see those birds. So I think there's a lot of obstacles to that, but you've already approved the other section. I think this, wish it would have been flip-flop. Maybe everybody could have seen the light of what they're really talking about doing in that area. I strongly oppose this.
Again, Jonathan Edwards, 549 Heirloom Drive, Hampton, Georgia. I oppose against this. Now we got apartments. Now they're bringing in commercial into this. Actually, our subdivision is right across the street from that. If you drive further down, when you get by BP where Jonesboro and Chambers meet up, you already have a shopping center over there that don't even have people that's able to do business there. It's open. I don't know if you guys was around Christmas time. If you go in the area around Christmas time where you got Target and you have Target, you have all the little stores down there. Traffic was so bad that police had to come out there and actually try to help people move around. And you're talking about for us having to leave our home just to go up the street and grab a piece of bread or something. You couldn't even. It took us like 45 minutes to get back home. So again, like the ma'am said, it's going to be against our property value. You guys come to work. You're at work right now. You're working for your family. You're working for your retirement. That soon it'll be all. You can go home and be done. Our home is right now in you guys' hand. What we work for every day. I built my house from the ground up. But now you're telling me now that you're about to put a store across the street from it, apartments across the street from it. What we all work hard for. But that's my time, my thanks. Thank you. I oppose against it.
Good evening. Tim McCoy, 3388. I live in Crystal Lake Village. One of my main objectives to this development, first of all, we didn't hear everything that was going to be put there when you approved the first part of it. Now we at the end of it and seeing all of this, I'm one of those people who believe in, you know, we got a president who say, let's make America great, but when I moved up here from Florida, it was like, okay, let's make Georgia beautiful. I go out and pick up all the trash that people that's coming down to the shopping centers from Clayton County and everywhere. Everybody use Jonesboro Road to get down to the restaurants, and now you're talking about putting all of this stuff there. Now, I don't know how any of you all can sit up there and hear what's being put there on a 2-lane road if you live anywhere in that neighborhood and see all the trash that's put along our roads, that makes the whole area look bad. I go out there and I pick up 4 or 5 bags of trash that people just go down to the restaurants. When they get ready to leave, they throw the trash right out. And to just sit here and listen to you all say, well, okay, well, you get more taxes, I understand that. And we are going to grow, and we have a lot of land to grow. But I don't know why, and for the builder, I can see why he would want to maximize the amount of money that he makes by putting everything in this one area. But for our commissioners to approve it just for the purpose of saying, well, okay, we're going to get more taxes or whatever, and not consider the people who have bought $300,000, $400,000 homes that have low density in that area, and then to sit here and listen to somebody who want to put all of this in the neighborhood and not consider us and me in general, because like I say, I go out there and I pick up all of this trash. That's something nobody has talked about, and I'm sure as you travel along the roads in this Henry County, this great county, you see all the trash that's being thrown out on the road. And you see apartment buildings popping up everywhere. I mean, we are growing, but I think we need to do a better job of considering how we grow and what we put into certain neighborhoods. Not just put it there because we're going to get more taxes. You're getting a lot of taxes already. I'm paying a lot of taxes on the house I got. And if we keep building houses like that, you're going to get the money. But Henry County is so big, people are building everywhere. Don't put it all in one area because maybe the builder say, well, let's put it here because it looks like a fine area. You know, you got nice homes and we'll do very well here, but look what they put in there. It ain't gonna cost $300,000. It's not gonna improve the value of my house. So that's basically what I wanted to say, but I just felt like I had to get that part in about all the trash that's being thrown out on the road and everybody coming from Clayton County and everywhere else to go down to eat and go back home. It's not just people in the neighborhoods, it's people coming from everywhere that's using Jonesboro Road. And that's what we have to deal with, but that's fine. And I haven't complained to my wife or anybody else about picking all this trash up, but I'm just looking at more trash being thrown on the roads, and the city or the county, they don't do anything to pick it up. I mean, the roads are not kept up. You know, if it has to be concerned citizens that go out there and do stuff like that to keep our neighborhood beautiful. And that's what's gonna make America great again. Keeping things looking good, beautiful. Not just saying, let's make it great by all of this rhetoric and all this other stuff, but people getting out there and doing things. But when you start putting apartment buildings and having transient type people come into the neighborhood, they don't care.
Sir, I'm going to have to cut you off, but thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Okay, do the board members have any questions or comments for staff or the applicant? Everybody okay? All right, let's call the case.
COMP AM 1709, Georgia Reserve of Conyers, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road, in land lots 87 and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 30.78 plus or minus acres, and the request is to change the future land use map designation from low-density residential to medium-high-density residential. The report was presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, and this is District 2.
Do you have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the board goes with staff recommendation denial of the applicant's request to change the future land use map designation to medium-high density and go with staff recommendation approval to medium-density residential.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, motion carried. All right, next case, please.
RZ 1716, Georgia Reserve of Conyers, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to MU Mixed Use for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road in land lots 87 and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 30.78 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development. The report is presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder in District 2.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
The rezoning case before you this evening is for the same property as the comprehensive plan amendment that you just heard and is located within the highway corridor overlay. The applicant is requesting mixed use, which will contain both commercial and residential uses supporting the intent of the mixed-use zoning district, which, for example, is to provide locations for offices, personal services, single-family, and multifamily residential uses. The proposed development would also help to carry out the intent of the highway corridor overlay, which in part is to promote a community where visitors and residents can live, work, eat, and play, and to encourage a balanced mix of retail, professional, residential, civic, and cultural uses. With that being said, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with the following conditions listed on the overhead, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
All right, do I have any questions from the board members for staff?
I don't at the moment.
So my question is, on these conditions, would that be something they already would have to do anyway, or is this over and beyond?
1, 2, and 3 were recommended by Henry County DOT, I believe.
Okay. I mean, wouldn't they have to do a traffic study? I mean, we had talked about that. Is it still in that highway corridor?
Yes, it is in the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and if they meet the thresholds for a traffic impact study, they certainly will have to perform that traffic study because the ordinance requires it.
But this is in addition to, because they might not meet that, or, you know, I guess I'm wondering why we have, not that I mind that it's there, but I'm just saying why here and nowhere else?
Jonesboro Road's a state route, and the state's already said they would require that they do a traffic study for any access to Jonesboro Road.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Anyone else have anything? Okay. I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and
Dale
address for the record. That's not for me, it's for the record, okay, because I know who you are
I
now.
understand. Dale Hall, Falcon Design Consultants, 235 Corporate Center Drive, Stockbridge, speaking on behalf of the applicant, Georgia Reserve LLC. We couldn't be in more agreement with some of the items that were said tonight, especially from the public, that this needs to be a high-quality product. This needs to be something that people want to go to. This is going to be a mixed-use development that's going to be something in the air that people want to go to. They want to go to, go to their mom and pop shop. They want to go to the salon. They want to go, eat something at the restaurant and make it part of the community, make it accessible so they can get in and out of that. Traffic study, we understand that. We agree to that. Making it conducive to the GDOT expansion of the road. So again, it becomes a seamless design with the area. That's the whole intent of this design, to make it part of the community and not be something that, people will avoid. This needs to be successful for the applicant as well as the community. So we understand the conditions that were placed on this project, these 4 conditions, and we don't have an issue with those at this time. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
What do you see for this area happening in this particular area?
By what do we see?
In the future, what would be there?
Well, we're obviously bound by and think it's a great item that we would be working with the overlay that's in the area, which requires, again, a higher level of architecture, design, open space, connectivity. So we see that coming all on through there. Again, the mixed use with the residential on the top, be it we're not looking at having apartments. That's not the over intent, and that's not what the application was sent here for. It'd be more condos, things of that ownership, so people can live, work, and play in that area, and make it so people can, have the parking right there, get out, walk to areas, have park there, have some open space, and again, want to walk and have an ice cream and then go and sit in the benches that are required next to the park. Those are things that people are going to want to go there, relax, have fun, and be part of this community.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
We'll allow the remaining 7 minutes for those who want, and 55 seconds, 53 seconds, for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay. We'll allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Adams. I live at 3608 Jonesboro Road. My mother lives at 3626 Jonesboro Road, right next door. I am a lifetime Henry County resident. My parents moved here in 1961. I was born in 1964. I am a 53-year-old with a teenager still at home. I work at Dutchtown Elementary. I went to college in Milledgeville and in Clayton. I am really saddened that between the end of our road on 75 and the end of our road, 1941 Terra Boulevard, I'm not sure what its name is, it has several names, that we are going to allow retail and businesses in the middle when there's two very viable retail centers there. I've been disappointed time and time again in this board. I am like Mr. Moore. I've sat through and watched my neighborhood change and watched Henry County change, and I've accepted it because people wanted to leave places that had lots of industry, lots of crime, lots of things, but mainly because their neighborhoods were not planned properly in other counties, and they've moved to our county for a better life, and I bet many of you have too. I do not think that commercial belongs in the middle of a road that is very busy, yes, and I know you have nothing to do with that, and your responsibility is only to the people who are asking to be rezoned for certain developments. I understand that. But you must understand that the people who live here may not want to live next to a shopping center. They left because somebody put a shopping center in their neighborhood in Clayton County or Fulton County or DeKalb County, and they moved to Henry County to get out of that. And it saddens me that we could even entertain and decide that it's okay just because y'all live there. These people have a right to use their property that way, and they do. But there's also a right for my property also. I thought I would die on my property, but I do not want to live in Henry County anymore. It is not cotton fields, peach orchards, farms, dirt roads, and things like that, and I understand that now. But I really want my property value to stay up a little bit so that when I leave, I can afford a house that's not next to shopping centers or a mile down the road. And personally, I love it. I love going to the store every day. I used to have to drive to Jonesboro or Stockbridge or somewhere. But I really want you to consider the quality of people's lives that live around this shopping center or are going to. The people building it could care less. They don't live here. They are making money, and that's their right. But not to impact on my rights, as my land might go down or it could go up. But I just, for the last few years that I'm living here, I really don't want to live next to a shopping center, even if it's beautiful. I live close enough. 3 miles from my house either way is good shopping, and I usually don't go anywhere else. I also want to point out that this board, not you, but the board in general at Henry County, has promised a lot of things and zoned. The zoning board has zoned a lot of things, and I want to point out that Crystal villages, Crystal Lake Villages, was once a 55 and older community and did not allow children to live there, but that changed when the housing industry changed. It is imperative that you think for the future that whatever board comes past you can change whatever you set, even your limits, they can change them. And it can become whatever the next person who doesn't live in Henry County or doesn't have a life in Henry County would like to do to make money. Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to come and speak in opposition of the case?
I'm Jean Canfield of 3488, and I am in opposition of this and all 4 items. There are several little shopping centers that are empty. Our stores keep failing. And why do we want another? And like she said, in the middle of our residences. These are nice big homes in Crystal Lake and Traditions. They are nice, really big homes. Why do we want a shopping center right there in the middle of it? Nor do we want apartments. And the traffic has been so bad already. Some people were killed right in front of this. So I really do not want this. I don't want small 400, 900 square foot apartments near me. I don't want duplexes. I don't want quadruplexes. I want people with nice homes that I can relate to and spend time with. So I oppose this. Thank you.
Jonathan Edwards, 549 Heirloom Drive, Hampton, Georgia. I oppose against this. Already on Jodica Road, I guess they're building a shopping center or a mall or something there. So they're already having some kind of shopping areas there, and that's not even a mile away from what they want to put right around the corner. I oppose against any shopping center, barbershop, or store, anything over there that's gonna go over there from the subdivision. I'll say you have a lot of older people in the subdivision right across the street from there that retire, work hard all their life, and now they're in the subdivision where they're gonna hear apartments across the street that you already approved on. And then of course you're probably gonna approve with this, but I oppose against it. I will go to the next level with it. And I just wish you guys right now, I know you thinking of what someone else would do next. Just thinking about what you guys can do right now. You can like stop it right now, that they don't have to go to that next level, because we already have enough to go to. They give us 4 cases tonight when they could have just put it all together, say, hey, we want to do all of this. But I oppose it. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline McCoy. I live at 3112 Alhambra Circle. I'm in Crystal Lake Village. I am one of the original 55 and over buying property there that was supposed to be designated for seniors. It didn't happen. Not only because the economy collapsed in 2007, but we, 6 families stayed in that little area for at least 4 years before we can get someone in to build. They build, and the quality is not there. We promised a lot of things, and we didn't get it, and we're still not getting it. Now we have Mr. Hall coming in today saying presenting what they would like to do. He's talking about quad. He's talking about single-family homes, apartments, rentals, and now he just mentioned condominiums. Which one is it? I know he has a job to do, like everyone else, but we've put our lives and invested money into an area that we thought was going to be a certain way, and it wasn't, and it's not. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it sounds like a Ponzi scheme, because you're offering a lot. You're saying it's going to be medical buildings, it's going to be this, different things. Which one is it? So you have the land, it's empty, but we don't even know that he can do anything in the future to keep his word of what it's going to be. He's asking for a medium to high density, but I suggest leaving it low where we can be comfortable, and people that come after us can be in a low density area. That's what I have to say, and I oppose every single thing that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. 18 seconds. Of 18 seconds, sir.
My name is Richard Adams. I live at 3608 Jonesboro Road, Hampton, Georgia. And like I said before, consistency with what is already there. This is a strictly residential area. It does not need any retail in this area. Period. We have from Chambers Road toward the expressway, we have 1941. We do not need any more retail in this area. We do not need to stop the zoning now, please.
Do any board members have any questions for applicant or staff before we call the case? Okay, we're going to call the case.
RZ 1716, Georgia Reserve of Conyers, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to MU Mixed Use for property located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, west of McCullough Road, in land lots 87 and 88 of the 6th District. The property consists of 30.78 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development. The report was presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, Planner 1, and this is District 2.
Do you have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that the board goes in favor of staff recommendation in this case to approve the request with the 4 conditions that we're looking at right now on the screen.
Okay, I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising their hand. All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay. That, I think, concludes our agenda items for this evening. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.